in Lunenburg. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. Let's see, I'd like to call this meeting to order. First, I would like to personally thank the school committee for being so nice as to move their meeting earlier so that we could have our meeting, since our meeting last week was postponed due to inclement weather. Thank you to the school committee. I'd like to now, motions for the minutes of January 23rd, February 13th.
So when will there be public comment? After this?
Yeah,
Yeah, a little further down.
yep. Do you have the agenda?
3B.
Should have the agenda.
Here. You wanna see it? Did you give it back?
Now I got an agenda someplace.
Okay. So, did everyone receive those minutes?
I move that we accept the minutes for January 23rd and February 13th as written.
Second.
There it is.
Okay, and just so you know, for discussion, it was brought to my attention that we should have at the end of each minutes respectfully submitted and the name of the person who took the minutes. So I would ask that we add that to our January 23rd and February 13th minutes.
I'll amend the motion.
Thank you very much. Who seconded that?
I did.
So is that okay with you?
Sure.
Okay. So without further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? So the minutes will be redone. Okay, now, here we go. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Lunenburg Charter Review Committee, I would like to welcome everyone present tonight and everyone who is viewing this through either the town's public access channel or later on through the YouTube channel account. Tonight's goal is to hear from you, the people of Lunenburg. This charter is a blueprint for the organization and operation of our town, much like the United States Constitution is. The U.S. Constitution was created by people who, just like us, came together, debated, amended, compromised, and forged a final product. Although not perfect, that document, with all of its compromises, has stood the test of time. During the last 18 months, the Charter Review Committee has used a similar process. The committee was formed to review and make recommendations for possible revisions in our town charter. During those 18 months, we have reached out to other town committees, elected officials, and you, the public. We asked questions, gathered information, listened, debated, researched, amended, compromised, and began to craft recommendations based on all of those inputs. What you have tonight are the basic recommendations that have been distilled through this process. This is not the final document, but the current draft subject to change, and to be used to create our final report. Tonight, we want to hear from you. Using tonight's input and the thoughts sent to us from our viewers at home, this committee will forge a final recommended document to bring forth to our annual town meeting in May. At town meeting, the Charter Review Committee report will be presented as 4 separate articles. This is to allow an orderly review and debate of all the recommendations. Currently, that plan is to, 1, present the basic typographical and legal compliance recommendations, which we have put in purple. 2, present the more substantive changes, including those that are actually realignments with current practice, which we've currently outlined in brown. 3, present the motion to change the town clerk position to appointed rather than elected. All of those are in red. And 4, present the motion to change the title of Board of Selectmen to Select Board, and those are all in green. During our town meeting, much like the meeting of our forefathers who created our original U.S. Constitution, there will be debate, amendments, and votes. The town moderator would like to remind everyone that during town meeting, all amendments would need to fall within the scope of the articles as listed in the warrant. By the end of our town meeting in May, we will have a newly forged town charter amended and approved by you, the citizens of Lunenburg. At that point, it will go through the process of being certified. Town council will review it and advise us on possible legal issues that will need to be tweaked. And the Board of Selectmen will approve the final document to be submitted to the Mass Legislature. The Mass Legislature will also review it, and if all goes well, it will be sent back to us to legally become our new charter. The revised charter, along with the bylaws, will be used to guide our town for the next 10 years. Tonight, through the committee, I am presenting each and every change with a quick explanation. Following this State of the Charter report, I will ask if there are any additional comments from the committee and then open the floor for public comments. I would like to first discuss the purple typo legal changes, followed by discussion of any of the brown, which is substantial realignment changes. If we could do it that way, it'll make it easier to focus. When you speak, please state your name and address, and if possible, the specific section of the charter you want to address so that we can bring it up on the board and look at the actual writing. I have paper and pens on the table here. I have copies of the presentation out. Please take notes, write things down. This presentation is also on the Lunenburg website exactly as it is now, and so anyone in the public can actually go to the website and bring up this presentation. As I said, it has every single change, the reason why, briefly, etc. Thank you. Now, are there any committee members who would like to make a statement?
I would.
Chair recognizes Ms. Sluck.
As you are aware, I have come late to this committee to replace Bob Ebersol. As I have watched the proceedings and read over the proposed charter changes, I have become increasingly concerned by the intent of several of the changes, which seem, in my opinion, to shift authority from elected and appointed boards and committees to the town manager. This concerns me on several fronts. The town fathers who created the charter did so in a certain manner with clear objectives in mind. They knew Lunenburg. They knew Lunenburg could not afford to pay for all the services required. They knew the town would need to depend on citizens to step up and volunteer to help out with the vast business that is running the town. Elected and appointed boards were created and given specific functions and authority, which they have carried out with due diligence over the years. They have been given a seat at the table of local government and have felt good about being able to serve, and to serve well they have. The charter was created in a certain way for a reason, with great care and thought. Now, for no reasons I have heard articulated, some of the proposed changes limit the involvement of elected and appointed boards without the question being asked or answered, what problem are we trying to solve? I have recently learned that the town manager is asking that an assistant town manager position be created and hired in the FY20 budget, which may or may not come to fruition. Clearly, that implies to me that she feels the town manager job as it currently stands is overwhelming. Why then would we propose to put even more on her plate? It just doesn't make any sense.
Thank you. Are there any other committee members? Wow. I'm new at this.
You know, I had one question. Are you going to go through the whole
I'm
thing
going through
and
the
then
exact
questions?
thing, and then I'm going to open it up for public comment, which is why I have the paper and all stuff.
So the whole thing
Yep.
and then questions?
Yep.
Instead of section by section?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so let us begin. Those at home, please go to the website if you'd like to follow along, if you can't see it or would like more on that. So as we begin, I guess I could do this. First off, We're going to talk about the purple, and unfortunately, the in-focus machine shows it as dark black. My screen says purple, so I'll do the best we can here. First, the beginning of the document, it was brought to our attention that it says Charter of the Town of Lunenburg, and then on line 14, it says line 18, Lunenburg Home Rule Charter. After discussing this with legal counsel, he advised us to change it to avoid confusion to Lunenburg Home Rule Charter. And if you look in the corner, I have a picture of the 1987 Town of Lunenburg Charter, and it says Home Rule Charter. So that is why we are proposing that change. Section 1.4, Divisions of Power. Although technically not needed, the committee felt the term voter needed to be clarified as the term is not officially defined until Section 17Q. Therefore, we're asking in line 29 to insert registered. Town council has said we do not need to put that in, but we felt that our definitions come later on line 80, and it would be just to be more, to clarify. 17G definitions. We wanted to add the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, just to clarify that we are talking about Massachusetts and specifically which general laws. Section 2(3)C, under committees, a clarification of the original powers and duties was unclear. What ended up happening, if you look at the bottom, it says powers and duties in line 108 at the very bottom. Oh, I could use this, right? Down over here. And it really, powers and duties of who? And we discovered it's the Finance Committee's powers and duties. So all we wanted to do was add Finance Committee there to make it clear that we were talking about the Finance Committee. Throughout the document, the committee has decided that specifically using days instead of months would clarify timelines in all the committees and all that. There was a lot of talk about, is Sunday included? Is Saturday included? This is just now just days. So you can see the references instead of 3 months within 90 days. So that's just a clarification to exactly how many days. Let's see. We discovered that the document uses affirm instead of ratify in a couple of places when ratify would be the proper term. The definition of ratify, to confirm by expressing consent, approval, to confirm something done, arranged. Wait, do I get this right? Yes. Yes, ratify. Affirm means it has an emotional thing to it, loyalty, etc. It does have a definition that we could, that has to do with judgment, but ratify really does just focus on being arranged by a representative and action being taken. The 331 School Committee asked us to change elect to appoint. Upon looking up the definition of appoint and elect, it was discovered that appoint is what they actually do. They name someone to a position of superintendent, and as like we designate a new treasurer, judge to the bench. Elect means voting by the public in this document, so we feel that that was a pretty good change there. 3.5, in talking, the Cemetery Commission requested that Seoul be added to this statement to more closely match current wording in the Mass General Laws. So I have there the insertion of Seoul, you can see right there, and this is the actual section, and you can see it says Seoul Care, and they just felt that that would help clarify their position. Under Article 4, Town Manager, there were many things that we discussed. 4.2J was an awkward phrase grammatically, which said for the 5 fiscal years next ensuing. We thought that just by putting for the following 5 fiscal years just was grammatically easier to say. 4.2M, wording was way overly specific. It specifically said Chapter 30B, Section 103, Chapter 41, which is accurate, but the committee felt that by taking that out and just saying the general laws, if Massachusetts ever decides to change things, people could still reference without having to worry about being narrowly in one spot. Department of Finance 53D5 has never, I met with the town manager, we discussed many of these things, has never existed and would not be appropriate to be under the town account finance director, as the town accountant is part of the check and balance process. The town manager is referenced in section 42M of the charter to be the chief procurement officer. So we are thinking about just taking that out, and then, whoops, wrong way, did I go the wrong way? No, I went the right way. If you see there in 53D5, line 681M, to be the town manager, to be the chief procurement officer of the town, et cetera, et cetera. 6.4, the budget message. There was an incorrect use of the word affect. It should be affect. Affect. Did I have that backwards?
No, you're right.
I'm right, okay. Affect is a noun, which is an emotion or a desire. Affect is an actual change. 6.5, the budget, delete verbiage with antiquated language. The town, at this point, we are using modern technology, and we don't really need to have it written in there as such. Section 7.8B, agendas. This is not actually needed specifically, but as the committee talked to different councils, commissions, committees, we felt that several times people didn't understand how agendas worked and when they had to do them and how many days. So you see in purple at the bottom, it says in accordance with the general laws, which are very specific on how to do agendas. We'll talk about the brown part in the next section. 7.8C, procedures governing multiple member bodies. We've been using journal in the charter, and according to council and the actual, the general laws use journal and minutes, but if you look at the definition of minutes, minutes is an official record of the proceedings at a meeting of a society, committee, or other group, and that is what is required by the open meeting law. So that's why that's there. 7.8C, procedures governing multiple bodies. I just put that in so you could see the entire thing. And there's a link there to go to the place in the general laws. Okay, those are the purple quote legal wording kind of changes and the basic reasons why there. Brown, which doesn't look very brown there either, is substantial changes, including realignment to current practices. All right, so all the Brown recommendations, oh, I just said that, major difference or reflect an actual change in town policy, procedure, or organization. At tonight's proposed recommendations being considered by the Charter Review Committee are based on input from town departments, input from committees, input from you, the public. This is something that you really need to keep in mind. Over the last 10 years, the town of Lunenburg has evolved and changed. Often the town, either at town meeting or the Board of Selectmen during its meeting and forums, have voted on procedural changes to how the town is organized and how it operates. Some of these changes are in non-agreement with our 2009 charter. During the last 18 months, town departments and committees generally suggested many of the proposed changes listed under Brown. Their suggestions, recommendations are an attempt to either accurately include the changes that have already been voted in by the town or the Board of Selectmen, or to clarify existing practices due to various reasons. The Charter Review Committee has included tentative language in the charter to reflect those modifications. During the next month, actually next week, the Charter Commission will revisit, edit, and finalize these recommendations based on your input and the input of our elected town officials and/or appointed committees. The final version will be presented to the town at our annual town meeting in May. So I will begin. I'll go through this relatively quickly. 1C, we would put in a new C, and then all the rest of them would be re-lettered. This is definitions. Day or days refers to a standard calendar day unless otherwise specified. 1.7, new K definitions. This is the clarification that a quorum should be derived from a full number of people appointed and elected to a multiple body, not just those present at a single meeting, or if a board or committee has vacant seats that are part of the total number of members that determine a quorum. There have been times when committees have thought the quorum of the people who are there, and some of the votes have actually been, I've been told, officially illegal because it wasn't a full quorum of the elected members to that effect. 2.3b, committees. The Finance Committee, this is their request. They would like to add, and who are residents registered to vote in town. Did you want to say something?
No, we can hold
Okay.
it.
Time of meeting 2.4. After much discussion concerning logistical town meeting issues such as low turnouts, lengthy sessions, large agendas, time-sensitive issues, and the inability to certify the town's budget, the committee proposes to add an official second town meeting to the town calendar. This is going to provide citizens and committees a consistent time frame for planning when to bring articles before town in a logical fashion. And you'll notice that it is it's a town meeting. It's not a special town meeting. Those can still happen whenever. This would just be in October, November, and everyone could plan, especially the planning board, so that you would know that you could take half of it, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And that's where that came from. 2.7b, initiation of warrant articles. Realignment to current practice and reflects current day use of email, as all town employees, board, committee, and commission members have a town-issued email account. This saves the town money, as email is free and mailing this notice is not. So what happens is, as you can see, it says, shall cause written or electronic copy to be provided to the chairperson of the Finance Committee, et cetera, et cetera. Actually, according to the original charter, everything is supposed to be mailed to their home, so to speak. And that has not happened, has it?
No.
No. So, Rules of Procedure 210, realignment to current practice. The town moderator has asked to have this included, as we have been using this format for many years. And all it states is, to conduct the town meeting shall be governed by the latest version of the town meeting time and such other rules and procedures that are established. 3.2d, Board of Selectmen. The current financial director is also the town accountant. The Board of Selectmen appoint the town accountant in the current charter, and the town manager appoints the finance director in the current charter. Because of this dual appointment process for the two roles, the finance director, town accountant's contract references both BOS and town manager. The current charter states the town manager appoints the finance director, police chief, fire chief, DPW, building inspector, and there are proposed changes to clarify actual titles. The current charter also states the town manager appoints the sewer business manager and land use director, that is then ratified by the respective boards, sewer commission and planning board. The current charter states the town manager makes recommendations for appointments for the treasurer and collector to the selectmen, and they appoint. The Board of Selectmen appoint all of this. The town manager basically acts as the head of a screening committee and comes up with a name to give to the Board of Selectmen, and they can say yay or no, come up with another name. So all the brown reflects those types of changes. So you'll notice it says this Board of Selectmen shall appoint a town, X, Y, and Z. There is no director of the council, whatever. And the appointment of. So all of these are just changes basically in the names to clarify what we're using currently. 3.7b, Board of Library Trustees. This section was completely rewritten by the Board of Library Trustees to match current practice. It was agreed to years back that the town would be in charge of maintenance of the library, as it has made economical sense to have this under facilities. So what I did, if we talk about that tonight, this is what they wrote, and it reflects what they are currently doing. And I won't read all of it, but it's there. The one thing we would like to take out, I guess, is 453, responsibility for the ordinary maintenance of the library may be transferred to a central municipal maintenance department by town meeting vote, because it already has been done. Is that correct?
Yeah, they put that in.
It's already there, so we don't need to say it because it's already done.
The library put that in.
Yeah. 39A, Board of Park Commissioners approached us and requested, the chairperson requested that they change the board from 3 to 5. In order to do that, we had to put in 5 members and then had to put in that they have to be elected so that there's always an equal amount running, that standard line, so not all of them get elected the same year. 310 Planning Board, the current charter does not have this language, but this reflects current practice and what the town manager is responsible for daily oversights of departments. And you can see in 497, the town manager will be responsible for supervision, evaluation of all personnel actions relating to this position. Unfortunately, this next section was supposed to be crossed off. It was included in the version of the charter that was on the website, so I did not want to take it out without saying that the town manager has requested this be removed, and next week we will discuss, and I'm assuming we will remove it as being unnecessary, but it's there in case people would like to have it in there. 313C, Board of Sewer Commissioners. The current charter does not have this language, but this reflects current practice in that the town manager is responsible for daily oversight of departments. And you'll see it says the town manager will be responsible for supervision, evaluation, and all personnel actions relating to this position. 4.1, under Article 4, Town Manager Appointment Qualification Term. After several months of discussion, the committee felt that we've been trying to get more town involvement in town activities. The current charter lists only people who are already involved in town through commissions voted in, and so we came up with adding 2 town residents who are not a member of any committee or elected position in the town to be appointed by the town moderator, so that we would get a larger pool of people in the screening process for town manager. 4.2C, powers and duties of the town manager. Let's see. Aligns process of appointment of department heads and ratification by the selectmen. Notice, ratification by the selectmen and correct renaming of building commissioner position. Director of Finance should not be Brown, as the town manager already has appointment power over the Director of Finance. When the document went through several changes, we just highlighted and turned Brown and forgot. But once again, it was already posted in Brown, so I left it there so that we can change it and be transparent. Notice at the bottom it says the town clerk statement in red is included only if at town meeting the town votes to have the town clerk position become appointed rather than elected. If the position remains elected, this phrase is automatically taken out. 4.2D, powers and duties, includes reference to town personnel bylaw, so it's consistent. You'll notice it says, subject to the provisions of the town's personnel bylaw, because we have bylaws, personnel bylaws. 4.2E, powers and duties of the town manager, consistent with personnel bylaws. To be the personnel administrator who is trusted X, Y, and Z, except the school department. If you remember the school department, that person is the superintendent who does that. 4.2I, powers and duties. Again, this change was discussed at the last public hearing in response to the question of ensuring that the respective commissions, boards' intended use of the facility property was followed. So the town manager to have full jurisdiction, subject to written policies over the rental use, maintenance, repair of all town facilities, blah, 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 under the control, except, I should read it, under the control of the school committee. Notice we're taking out library trustees because they've already transferred that, and the Conservation Commission, subject to written policies set forth by elected officials, and we're opting to take out the rest of it. Powers and duties again, 42I. This section was rewritten to match the Board of Library Trustees change in Section 37B. So that's why the library was deleted from this section. 42I clarifies that all contracts, including collective bargaining contracts, which is new within the last 10 years, is included. So it says, including contracts with town employees and bargaining units subject to ratification by the Select Board. 42S, powers and duties of town manager. The original wording may be interpreted to limit the scope of the town manager's responsibility for forecasting and budgeting. We just wanted to take out related to infrastructure maintenance, improvement, and inspection, because we are asking them to prepare financial forecast, including everything. 44C, acting town manager. There's some confusion in this section. This is discussing the acting town manager. The committee felt that 44C was a duplication because after a review, the commission felt that this was outlined in 4.1, which 4.1 states, whenever the position of a town manager shall be vacant, the town manager screening committee shall be convened and shall solicit candidates, review applicants, and rate candidates and submit names, et cetera, to be ratified by the Board of Selectmen. So it's already there. That full section for acting town manager includes what happens if there's a temporary absence and an unplanned temporary absence. So the vacancy is not needed because there's already a process in 4.1, 4.1, whatever. 4.5B, powers and duties of the town manager, outlines the due process for town manager removal and suspension. We discovered very early in reviewing the charter that the town manager had no legal rights to represent he or herself if there was a complaint, or if the Board of Selectmen felt she was or he was not doing their duty. There was no process that protected everything to be done correctly. And I'm saying that wrong. So if you have questions, we can have that clarified. So all this is gives the town manager the right to have a hearing and to have representative there to the hearing and to have a hearing and to have legal counsel. 53A, Department of Finance and Financial Services. This is a clarification of chain of command. There shall be a Department of Finance and Financial Services headed by a Director of Municipal Finance who is either the town manager or the town manager's appointee per Article 4. 6.3, submission of budget and budget message. We do follow this provision currently by publishing a message in the local newspaper. The removal will save the town the publication costs and the change to include the summary in the warrant that must be mailed to every household per the current charter will be provided to a wider audience. What we're saying is, instead of just putting it in the newspaper, let's put it on the website, which is available to most of the townspeople, and the library has access to it, and their senior center, I believe, has access to it. And then at the bottom, it says the summary of the budget shall be mailed with the warrant to every household with registered voters as provided by the town bylaws. So this is going to get it out to everyone and save money at the same time. 6.5A, the budget, clarification requested by the finance director. The terminology is antiquated. I guess we don't have work programs. It says detailed by town agency appropriation. Everything they do now is under appropriations according to whatever she has to do for the state, and it's no longer using the term work programs. 6.5C, again, clarification requested by the finance director, covers all possible availing funding sources, period. In the changes, identify all other available sources of funding. We do not need to put in the examples which may or may not exist in 5 years, because they keep changing the revenue, how they name it. So by saying identify all other available, all other, just identify them all. 7A-B, clarification, multiple member bodies, clarification of the process and timeline for posting agendas. This is that Brown. There have been several instances where agendas were not posted in a timely manner. This clarifies that if there is an emergency, it has to be at least 48 hours, not including Saturdays and Sundays and legal holidays. This way here that everyone in the public, every commission, every body, multiple member body understands that agendas have to go out. For example, today, I sent out the agenda for next Wednesday's meeting because it has to be done 3 days in advance in case there was something that happened, we had a snowstorm or the power failure, town hall wasn't open tomorrow. I could not really post it Monday afternoon, and B, we could not have our meeting. So I put it out today. So this is to clarify, if there was an emergency, I could do it on Monday, but that's not fair. I can do it today, so we did it today. So there's a reason. 7.8C, multiple member bodies. At the moment, all minutes are date stamped, posted on the town webpage, and a hard copy is filed in the town clerk's office. This clarifies that minutes do not need to be certified by notary. Several people at some point mentioned, it says certified copies. To guarantee, endorse reliability, to certify a document with an official seal. I went to town clerk, they date stamp them, but there is no, it's not the official notary seal. So we feel we should just take that out because the general law says it has to be date stamped. That process is already there. We don't need to say certified. And the 1987 Lunenburg Home Rule Charter, to paraphrase, says just an official copy needs to be kept in the town's clerk's office. So somewhere between 87 and 2009, someone added the word certified. 7.8E, procedures governing multiple member bodies, restatement of definitions, section 17, new K, quorum, that you need the entire authorized complement is a quorum, whatever that is. Not just the people who are there, but everyone who is voted in, elected, appointed for that position. This body has 9 members. If 3 people showed up to a meeting, we would not have a quorum. So we couldn't say, well, 2 people voted, we have a quorum. No, we have to have at least 5, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. 7.8F, procedures governing multiple member bodies. Clarifies the process of filling vacancies. The current language is very vague and does not provide enough time to advertise for vacancies, schedule a joint meeting, make the appointment, and also meet the requirements under 710. So we wanted to, as you can see, and no later than, the remaining members shall forthwith, and no later than 70 days, give
30
written
days
notice.
thereafter.
If no notice is given, the vacancy shall be deemed to have occurred 30 days after it actually occurs or after it becomes known to the appointing authority, whichever is later. At the expiration of 60 days, the 60 days was brought in, instead of 30, to cover like, right? We had the winter holiday where Christmas and New Year's happened on your meeting date, which automatically, or someone's meeting date, which automatically meant that you couldn't meet the 30-day thing because we were way over or whatever. And if such notice to the appointing authority, and there is a candidate or candidates available, said appointing authority has not appointed same person, and then the rest is in the charter. So this is just clarifying that whole process so everyone knows exactly how to fill the vacancies. 710, notice of vacancies. We'd like to add, clarifies vacancy process. The assumption is that the original intent of this section was for appointment of employees only, not board and committee members. So we're adding by a town employee other than those on multiple member boards. Multiple member boards are covered in the other section, but this includes the town employees that are not anticipated by, if something well, I'm going to read this wrong. Other than, I'm reading
Basically,
wrong.
it's just saying that this is just about employees.
Just about employees,
That's all
because
it's saying,
multiple
yeah.
members. Thank you. There's a lot going on here, and I'm
Yep.
losing it. Section 711 is brand new. The enforcement, it came to our attention over the 18 months that several parts of the charter were not being used correctly, not being followed. No one reported it to anybody. No one knew they weren't being followed, X, Y, and Z. So, 4.2N recognizes that the authority of the town manager to oversee the provisions of the charter bylaws, that's where it says the town manager has the duty and the authority. The new section 711 clarifies this so that everyone knows exactly what to do and how to do it. It shall be the duty of the town manager to see that the provisions of the charter and town general bylaws are faithfully followed and complied with by all town agencies and the town employees. Whenever it appears to the town manager that any town agency or town employee is failing to follow any provisions of this charter or town general bylaws, the town manager shall, in writing, cause notice to be given to such agency or employee directing compliance with the charter. If it appears to the select board that the town manager personally is not following the provisions of the charter or the town general bylaws, it shall, by resolution, direct the attention of the town manager to those areas in which they believe there is a failure to comply with charter provisions. The procedures made available in Chapter 231A of the Mass General Laws may be used to determine the rights, duties, status, or other legal relations arising under this charter or town general bylaws, including any questions of construction or validity which may be involved in such determination. So, in effect, the town manager becomes the lightning rod. Anyone in town who finds that something's not happening can go to either the town manager or the Board of Selection and say, I think there is something happening here that needs to be looked into, and there is now officially a process for it. Okay, those are all the brown changes. Red, town clerk position. Keep as an elected position or change to an appointed position. During the last 18 months, there has been a lot of discussion, both publicly at our Charter Review Committee meetings, concerning the town clerk position. Early in our discussion, the fall of 2017, after numerous discussions and a quick survey through the town, the committee decided to let the voters decide this issue at this year's annual town meeting. More specific information on the pro and cons of elected versus appointment will be forthcoming. So, I've distilled some general thoughts there. Keep as is, no change. If the voters of Lunenburg decide to keep the position as is, then there is no change in the charter. All town clerk items in the current charter stay as is, and the proposed red inserted statement in 4.2C is automatically removed. I would have put it as a strikeout, but it depends on what happens at town meeting. If the voters of Lunenburg decide to change the position to appointed, all references to the town clerk position as an elected official would be removed, and there would be section 312, term of office. There shall be a town clerk, that's the thing that would be taken out. I don't have to read that. And just so you know, 313 would be labeled 312 and all renumbered to match it, so would be it. The town clerk position would then be included in all appropriate references to appointed personnel. For example, section 4TC, and there is that town clerk who is not currently shall be a resident of the town and a registered voter within 180 days of appointment. That's why that's in there. The rough cost comparison. I asked the town manager, the labor board, to give me some general guidelines, obviously general because it's not happened yet. An appointed clerk, here we go, salary would be determined after a review by the Personnel Committee based on proposed classification compensation that also would be based on other non-union positions within the salary administration plan and then subsequently voted in at town meeting. So the salary would be voted at town meeting. Health insurance, paid time off is roughly the same. Some is a little higher, some is a little lower depending on the position, but it kind of evens out. Retirement costs for an appointed town clerk would only increase if the salary increased. The actual cost of the town for retirement, and we talked to the retirement board, I guess, is not segregated by position or employee, but is based on total active, non-active retirees that the town is paying for. So if it increased, it could be because other positions increase, not necessarily the retirement cost for the town clerk. If I may add, the town clerk position as elected is under the retirement system, correct? And appointed would be under the so that's basically a wash, and it all depends on the salary, because retirement is based on a percentage of the salary. Thank you very much.
But,
Oh, that's okay.
elected doesn't have any paid time off or sick time,
Correct.
so that's incorrect.
Nope, because it says here, health insurance paid time off is roughly the same
So, but there is no paid time off.
for elected.
Right.
But there are other things that, and if you want later on, I'll ask Heather, do you have more information on that? We talked about it briefly, or we can get more information for next week's meeting. Can you make a note to find out exactly what that is, please? Or can you do that quickly?
Just quickly, yes.
Sure.
So, correct, there is no benefit time accrued for the elected town clerk
Or sick time.
or sick time, but they could take whatever time that person wanted because they're not held to that.
Yeah, but they don't have paid time off.
Correct. But
So
the
that's incorrect.
salary, so it would
Right.
be, yeah, same.
So there's no difference.
There's a difference. There's
no,
no
there
paid
isn't.
time off or sick time if it's elected.
All right, well, but you know what?
They don't lose any money.
I'm going to be honest with you, we're going to bring this up at town meeting for discussion. This is no longer, our committee has decided to let the town vote on this. So I will ask, Heather, could you give us more specifics on the paid time off for our next meeting on Wednesday? Is that something that can happen? Yes. All right, so instead of talking what could happen, let's get some more specifics there. That'll be perfect. So, appointed town clerk, there would be an addition, there would be a clause that town council, or someone, town council, I believe, sent it to me. No,
It was town council.
town council, thank you. There would be a clause written into the charter and added to Article 8, which is a transitional provisions article, Section 8.3, continuation of administrative personnel. There would be an addition of, upon the effective date of this act, the elected office of the town clerk shall be abolished and the term of the elected incumbent terminated, provided, however, that the incumbent holding the office of town clerk on the effective date of this act shall become the first appointed town clerk and shall serve in that capacity for a period of time equivalent to the remainder of the incumbent's elected term or until the position is otherwise vacated. So that's the standard grandfather clause that the current person, if the town meeting decided to go with appointed, the current person would remain in that position until the voted term is out, or they leave for another reason. Green, selectmen, keep as is, Board of Selectmen, BOS, or change to select board. During the last 18 months, there's been a lot of discussion, both publicly and at our Charter Review Committee meetings, concerning the possible renaming of the Board of Selectmen. Last fall, after discussion and input from town citizens, the committee moved to let the voters decide this issue at the annual town meeting. We're done with it. The voters will decide. We will give more information on the pros and cons as we get closer to town meeting. I have written up, if we keep it as is, this is general basic. If the voters of Lunenburg at town meeting decide to keep the position as is, there is no change to the charter. All Board of Selectmen reference in the current charter stay as Board of Selectmen. If at town meeting it is voted to change the name from Board of Selectmen, BOS, to Select Board, then all references to the Board of Selectmen position would be changed. The first reference in line 28 would say, an executive branch headed by a select board formerly called the Board of Selectmen. This would be to avoid confusion to someone who did not realize that we changed the name.
Do you mean formerly, not formally?
Formally. I did write oh, did I say it wrong?
Formally like special, instead of
Did I write the
formerly.
wrong word?
It should be in a tux.
Yeah, right.
So that's a spelling error?
Yeah,
So-
it's spelling
Yeah,
error.
it should be former.
Okay.
Formerly.
No, formally was what?
Formerly.
Oh, that's me. Okay, someone remind me to write that in. Can you write that in on this copy here for me, please? Thank you. All other references would simply change to Select Board. And I gave examples there, just so you would see what it would look like. And here is our notice. I would ask, before I'll ask for comments from the committee members. We'll read, because you have something to read in, and then public comments. When we go to public comments, if we could please do the purple changes for typo first, quickly, and if no one has any of those, great, we'll go to the brown. I just want to focus at the two different levels first and not just go helter-skelter, because sometimes a change in one can affect the other, and I'd rather do the legal and typo ones so that when we get to the brown substantial, we'll have an understanding that the purple ones either are in there or being challenged, if that makes sense. So, first off, I open this up now for any comments from the committee itself.
I just want to basically, just again, for the point of clarification, that at the time of town meeting, there'll be two charters to vote on in totality, the green version and the purple version. No,
Brown.
Brown and purple.
Typo and
Right.
legal changes, which are in purple, and brown, which are substantial changes and realignment with current practice.
Right.
Let's make sure we use those terms.
Thank you. All right, so those will be voted in their totality, and then the other two, the town clerk and the Board of Selectmen name will be separate. And that, so basically, if neither of the new charters passes, then we'll basically be left with the charter that we currently have, which was one of the reasons why we really wanted to highlight the original charter, changing just the legal terms and typos. Just,
And the original charter is on the website under our committee,
okay, and then,
for your reading ability.
just to clarify, I think you had asked me if I wanted to say anything on
Right.
the Finance Committee request to change the language to include, "and who are residents registered to vote in town," and that's at line 108 and 109. That was basically just to clarify that within Section 2, which is the legislative section of the town meeting, identifying town meeting as a legislative body of the town, that we just wanted to clarify that people appointed to the Finance Committee also be registered to vote in the town. So that's where that came from. And that was-
Point of clarification, then everything in brown has to be voted up or down together?
Yes.
At town meeting,
Okay.
next Wednesday, it is, as the agenda is posted, that we would review all of these changes, and as a committee, we would vote on the final version that then goes to town council to be checked for legalities, which then comes, we tweak it for whatever, and then goes out to be written in the warrants, and that's what would be voted on by the town. So next Wednesday, we are going to go through each of these changes, and as a committee vote, yes, supermajority, or no.
So supermajority means 7 out of the 9?
Yes, six.
Six?
Six.
6 out of the 9.
So, when we get to the substantial, because that's what you meant, substantial and realignment, I would bring up for 4C, we want to take that one out, so that's a lousy. 5.3A, we'd like to add that the municipal, who is either the town manager or the town manager's appointee per Article 4. Does anyone have discussion on that? And then we would vote it, and it either would stay in or we would take it out. So that at the end of next Wednesday's meeting, we will have a document that on Thursday, I will go through and take out all the things we voted not to include so that there are no lineouts. I would then send it to everyone so that it can then be sent Monday. I think Monday would be fine, right? I'm thinking, we got to talk timeline because things have to go into the printers. So by Thursday, next Thursday by noon, I would have a document for all of you to see, to say quickly, yep, that's what we discussed. You know what I mean? Just a double check. Because it's always good to have a second double eyes. As you saw, I misspelt formally, whatever. There's a lot in here. So next Wednesday, that's what the agenda states, is that we are going to go through this we are going to write down, that's why you have this. So you can write down your concerns over each one. We want to hear from you, the public. We're not going to discuss them per se. We're going to write all these concerns down. And between now and next Wednesday, I'm going to ask the committee, got that right for once, committee to look at every one of those comments, to look at every one of these sections. And I've outlined it so no one has to look for it. You know, and you can look at the original charter, which is online. You can write down, oh, I think this is a great change, or no, this should not be changed. I would appreciate it as chairperson, if you need more information, to either email me so that I can discuss it with Heather by Monday, because today is Wednesday, by Monday, so that we can get whatever extra information you need. For example, like the town clerk thing. We have time to get it. Don't wait for Wednesday to ask for information that can be gotten ahead of time. That's what I would ask. Wednesday, we really need to end the night with a document of our recommendations that we will bring forth to the town and let the town decide. The town will have the ability to look at anything in there. One article will be just the purple typographical. Town moderator will read the warrant to say to whatever, and we'll open, actually, we'll probably do something like this, bring up all the changes, and then we'll discuss the changes, and then there will be amendments, correct, Mr. Moderator? And then we will have a copy like this, and we will be writing in whatever amendments actually change the charter, and then I would assume that over the weekend, we will have to come up with a certified copy through the town clerk's office that we can then make sure is correct and then get sent to to the Board of Selectmen and then the Mass Legislature. Do I have that all correct? That's was in my opening statement on that. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. We are on a timeline. We have a meeting next Wednesday, and then everything has to go to print by Monday, March 25th. But in between that, legal counsel needs to check to make sure that we haven't rewritten something that is illegal. I mean, and that's all they're gonna do is he will say, this is fine, legally you need to use this word, not this word, that kind of stuff. And then that's what goes to print. Everyone in town will be mailed. Will they be mailed the new charter? They'll be directed to the website. Now, if someone calls your office, Heather, and requests that they have no access to internet, would you provide them with a copy?
Certainly.
Okay. So we have a process where everyone in town who wants a copy will either be able to see it online, come to town hall to read it. Then we should probably put one at the library, too.
Should put a couple at the senior center also.
And a couple of the seniors. So you're going to need to remind me of that, because there's going to be a lot of details that I'm going to be doing. And if someone can remind, we will make sure there are copies at the senior center and copies at the library. So there'll be no reason for someone to say, I had no way to see what you were talking about. And we're trying to be very transparent. We were in charge of looking at the charter and making recommendations based on 2018-19. The town gets to decide what they want, not us. We are deciding what will be included and what not to include based on all the conversations we've had with all the townspeople that have talked to us, town commissions, elected officials, et cetera. Does that make sense? We are like the screening committee that the school committee uses, that you use for people. We took everybody's suggestion. We sifted through it. Some were not appropriate or didn't work, or some were like, that's a great idea. And that's why we came up with this document. Does that answer your question? Probably in more words than I needed to use. But I want to make sure everyone knows what the process is. Next Wednesday, if you, after tonight, you really have, I would suggest you really email me your concerns and what information you might want. We can't go into super depth. We cannot go into 16 levels, but we will try to answer those questions. And it will be a lot easier if you give us the questions ahead of time so we can Or, because if we need information, it's really hard to get it after Wednesday and then also get it to legal counsel in time so that we can get it back. So I implore those of you at home watching this, email me on the website, srshamble@Lunenburg online.com. Call the town hall, they will tell you. Call the town hall, they will write me a message, and someone will email me that message. Get me the information, we'll put it in, so that when we discuss something, I can say, I got 3 people who said that they would like to use X, not Y. You know what I mean? I'll be honest, I want your voice. Remember, this document is a compromise. Not all of you will be happy with everything, but you should be happy with most and be willing to live with 98% of it, I guess. Because we're not gonna make everyone happy. The US Constitution doesn't make everybody happy, but it's a good compromise. I think it's a good compromise. Anyway, so.
I'm finished with my remarks. I don't know if anybody else had any.
Jim. Sorry.
Unless I change my name. I do have just a couple of notes on the.
Make sure you know mine.
I've got one right here.
Okay.
I do have a couple of comments on 42I. We have subject to written policies listed twice. The second one is redundant, or the first one is redundant.
Do I have 42I in there twice?
Correct.
No, subject to written
Subject to
policies is written twice.
Is written twice.
Twice,
In brown.
in brown.
To have full jurisdiction, subject to written policies, blah, blah, blah. Subject
Okay.
to written policies
42I.
set forth by elected officials.
672, 670,
Yeah, we probably want to
First
take
line
out
and
the
the
first
third.
subject to written policies. It's line 667.
okay, I want
And
to write
67
everything on
and
this, 'cause this is
672.
what we're going to use.
Yeah.
So,
Or we just make a note that we're going to make a change on that
On both
page.
of those.
yep, that would be excellent. That's 42I.
Correct.
We need to
Both
take one out.
pages.
I think we should remove the one on line 674.
The second one that
The
says
second
set
one,
forth by
because-
elected
It's
officials.
not, it's not
Because
called
that-
674 anymore.
Yeah, and by the way,
Oh,
the slideshow is based
Oh.
on the document that's
Oh.
on the website.
Oh,
the
not,
document you have.
oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
but
All right.
I would remove the
Second
second
one.
one because
second
that follows
reference.
the exception.
Right, okay.
That's
I'm
true,
afraid-
but we would want to move it then, because basically we still wanted to say set forth by elected officials, so we would want that part of it included in the
Policies
first line.
included.
So we want to move that up.
All right, move that.
That moves up there.
So does she have full jurisdiction subject to written policies? And,
Subject to written policies set forth by elected officials.
Except
Correct.
property
Oh, section
under the control of the school committee. and
Right.
Conservation.
All right, so we need to look at that, and I'll tell you what,
So
Jim?
it's this slide and the next slide.
Okay.
Next
Same
slide.
changes.
Same change.
Exactly
Okay.
the same.
Jim, can I ask you to look at those two, and for next Wednesday, just give us how to rewrite it?
Okay.
There's no need to discuss how to rewrite it here. Can you do that for us?
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so I'm going to write Jim.
All right, and then on 44C,
Yes?
I do not believe that this is a duplication
Okay.
of vacancy. This
Oh, I
is
agree.
regarding to the acting town manager, where we have temporary absence, we have unplanned temporary absence, but those are both temporary absences. It's not a vacancy.
Okay?
So I think we need to revisit,
And we will revisit
keeping this
that next
in the
Wednesday.
document.
Okay.
Thank
you. I agree.
We'll revisit that, definitely, we will. Any other committee members?
I would actually like to let the people in the audience share we'll have next week to do it, right?
A working meeting.
Yep. Okay, written comments that were sent in, you have one? Okay, thank you. Wait a minute, let's do this. so we can-
So this is a letter I received from David Prokofiev. Dear Mr. Cole, I am writing and hope you will share this letter with the rest of the committee during public discussion at your next meeting. Recently, I resigned from the planning board after years of service. Part of the reason for my early departure was that I became frustrated by what I see as weakness in the review and accountability structure within the town charter for town employees, specifically the land use director and the town manager. On several occasions, requests made by board members were not followed up or completed by the land use director, frustrating membership with some errors, in my opinion, resulting in costly lawsuits. Communication and coordination were often weak, even at times when it should have been paramount. Unfortunately, the board, and especially individual members, had no remedy to pursue. There is no formal review process that the board can use to evaluate the effectiveness of the support staff, and as a result, there's no effective way to critique staff and provide feedback, either positively or negatively. In addition, there doesn't seem to be any accountability structure moving vertically through the organization. The town manager's response to problems was to simply hold an airing out meeting. Afterward, it was suggested that there was no cumulative effect of issues. It was suggested that the past was the past, and therefore, I assume, each problem ends with the same result, an airing out meeting. I hope you will take these criticisms seriously, as they didn't only cause problems for me, but several members of the board over the years. Please consider instituting some sort of formalized review process. I believe it leads to many good volunteers leaving early because of the lack of accountability within the system. Very truly yours, David Prokofiew.
Could you please email that to me so I
Certainly.
have a copy? Thank you very much. Anyone else have something from the public they'd like to read in? Well, then,
I do have a comment, though, about this. One, I don't believe that it was appropriate to read in a public setting. It specifically called out two individuals. And I do not believe, yes, two town employees. I also do not believe that that's under the purview of the Charter Review Committee to come up with policies and procedures
okay,
around personnel discussions.
okay, thank you. All right, seeing that no one from the committee wants to talk anymore, I will open this up in a moment to the public. Please, if you can, if you could say the section so that we can bring it up there, public access has this, and they will bring it up so that the public can see it and know what we're talking about. Does that make sense? I hope, anyway. Okay, so, public comments. Why don't we start on the purple, which is typos and legal things. Is there anyone who would like to speak to any of those changes? The chair recognizes Katie Adams.
Katie Adams, Williams Drive. My public comment is not color-related in terms
Okay.
of purple-brown, so I didn't know where to place it, so I'll just do it now. I just wanted to say I'm here tonight as a former member of the Charter Review Committee, and I'm here participating as a citizen. There is a quorum of selectmen here, and I take open meeting law very seriously, so I just wanted to say if I do participate and have comments, they're as a citizen. And I just wanted to make that very clear, not even knowing if I'm going to make a comment, that I'm here tonight as a citizen. We're not participating as a quorum of selectmen at all.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Oh. Okay, purple? Okay, Mr. Luck. Which section while you're,
I can't guarantee I keep them, this one I think I'll be right, but after this,
All
I
right.
don't know.
Where?
It's section, Carl Luck, 50 Sunset Lane. It's section 5-3-D-5,
5,
Department of Finance and Financial Services.
53-A, right?
I'm reading from your view graph. It's 5-3.
Do you have the line?
Well, no,
It's line 884 through 887 in the presentation.
883 in our
In
printout.
the, in your...
I'm in the brown, no wonder.
It's 880 through 884
883 in our printout.
in the February
I should have
12th.
numbered these pages.
Yeah.
883.
All right, 53D,
D as in dog.
D, right?
I don't know why you don't have it.
I'm just reading through.
Yeah, what,
Yes,
Okay,
thank you, Tom.
I'm sorry. I thought I was in the browns. Okay, Mr. Luck.
Oh, am I in the wrong color?
Get the number of the pages next time.
I don't know, We're just
it's
talking,
purple.
okay, so you're just talking about the procurement office?
Yes.
Is that, okay.
Yes, yeah, just a
I don't
deletion
even
of
see
this.
it in his thing.
And my
you're in the
comment
brown.
is that...
See, I was
You
in
gotta
the
go in the
brown. Go
purple.
to the purple. They're separated by color.
You okay?
It's about this far in.
I just did the same thing.
I'm waiting for your committee.
5-3D.
That's why it's up there.
Thank you.
I thought the going-in premise was only change things where there's a problem and there's a very need to change it. Because, I mean, we reference to like the Constitution, you know, if we went into the Constitution and took out all of the antiquated language, it would be an awful lot of changes. So, although we've never had a procurement division, I heard, I didn't know we never had one. Clearly, when the charter was written, it was put in here. So, I don't know why we're removing something from the charter just because today we don't have one. It's not going to hurt anything if we don't have anything. It's not over-constraining. So it's more a philosophy of, it seems that there should be a compelling reason to remove something before we do it. So that's my only comment. I see no
Okay.
reason to remove it.
Actually, there is a reason to remove it there, because the town accountant should not be supervising the division of procurement, which was why we pulled it out, because basically, the way that it works in terms of checks and balances is that somebody places an order, and the last thing that happens is the accountant signs or does not sign the check paying for that purchase to make sure that all of the proper procedures have been followed in advance of that. So as a check and balance, it really falls under a separate, it should fall under a separate
Oh, okay.
type of flow chart.
That makes sense. So
Yeah.
why don't we move it then instead of deleting it?
Well, I think because it also refers to the, I don't know if it does exist someplace else, or procurement does. It could just be that the town manager is referenced to be the chief procurement officer, but I'm not sure where exactly it falls otherwise, so.
Would it go under the procurement officer then? Is that where it should go? Or- Just my point.
Yeah, no, the point is, the reason why it's taken out of that section is because it should not fall under the town accountant. Because the town accountant has to verify that all of the proper procedures have been followed.
And on the next slide, it references the town manager,
Right, as the chief procurement officer.
chief procurement officer. Does that address your
Moved
concern?
under there then? It should be moved under the town manager?
I think it is already there. I think that's,
This thing out the
So
Yeah, it says there, responsible for procuring all services, supplies, materials, equipment for all departments and activities of the town in the manner provided by the general laws,
wait a minute, now I'm
which is
very-
basically
now
the same thing as what it says here.
Boy, I'm really.
Yeah, that's
I'm really
under
confused.
5.3D5.
What I'm looking at doesn't look like.
yeah, it's on the next
next
page.
Page.
Well,
The next,
this
there's
is-
two pages.
this is the
That's
second page.
This is the second page.
5.3D5
But the piece I'm talking about is
is the first page.
It's this page, watch. Right?
not.
That,
is
we're going
this
to take it out of that section because
Yep.
it's already in section 42M.
So that language is in there. If I go check the language, that
Right.
it's been
That-
moved.
That's the language from 42M.
Well, the language,
Is it included in the next section? He's asking, is this specific language included in the chief procurement officer language?
Right.
Is that correct? That's what you're asking?
That's what I'm asking.
Okay.
Has it actually been moved?
well, it's actually,
It doesn't have to be because it's already there.
it was already
That
there.
language is there.
It was already there. It was
It's not
duplicated.
that specific language, but the gist
essence
is the same.
of it.
Message.
It's
Yeah.
purchasing all supplies, materials, and equipment for all offices and agency is what we're taking out, and this says the town manager will procuring all services, supplies, materials, and equipment for all departments, according to the general laws. So, it's already in there. That's why we're going to take it out.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Oh, great question. Is there anyone else with in the beginning section of the document, which, obviously, all right, then let's move. Everyone, we're now going to go,
I think I have one. Is section 3.2D, is that a Brown?
say it again, please.
32D.
3.2D.
E?
3,
Yep.
Well, maybe it was confusing me as there's different colors on the same sheet.
This one? Is this one?
right.
So it's only addressing the brown colors on that sheet, not
I don't even
the
see any colors
Is
on
it a
this.
brown one, or is that what you're talking about?
There's more than one
32D,
page.
Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen, yeah?
Brown.
So I think all of the purple stuff is in the beginning, then it moves to the brown.
Yeah, you're in brown.
You're in brown, so
I'll
just wait a second, we'll hear it. But what happens,
Maybe somebody
I
else will
organize it so that we could discuss all those things, which are generally just clarification issues. And now, any other in the typo area? Now, starting with the document, we're starting with this page here. Oops, if I go the right way. Right here. The section that says brown, substantial changes. So anything we talk about now is going to be this, and it's all numerical order, 1 through 8.
Mr. Chair, will you be regenerating this PowerPoint?
Not unless there's some major changes.
Well, if you do, I would
Number
ask that you
pages.
number the pages.
Yeah.
You know what, everyone, that's your homework assignment. 'Cause I don't want to waste paper. Because,
I think he's talking about for town meeting.
oh,
Yeah, if you're doing
town
that.
meeting, yeah, I've just discovered, yeah, it would be
Okay,
very
thank
good
you.
to number it for town meeting, yes.
Thank you.
Someone's going to remind me of that, too.
So
Okay,
section
so,
7.
Mr. Alonso, we will recognize you.
Leave their glasses up here.
No, they've been there.
Prescription.
Okay.
Everybody moves. Tom Alonso, 284 Lancaster Avenue. The first thing I want to say is, having served on 2 of these charter review committees myself, I want to thank you all for the length of time and the tedium of doing something like this. It's not a fun thing. It's not like writing a novel, that's for sure. So thank you
All
for
right, you're
putting
welcome.
all this together. I'm going to go, I have a lot of pages here, so I'm going to try to do my comments quickly.
Yep, just tell us what, and so that we
Yep,
can write your
I'm going to go in
comments
order.
down.
So I'm gonna
You
start
are
at
awesome.
23B, the Finance Committee.
What page number is that?
Just start at 1. No.
It's page blank.
It's like the second page.
Okay,
Kidding.
So,
Oh.
I don't understand why we would restrict people being on the Finance Committee to be registered voters. First of all, they're not already. Second of all, what does the fact that they can or can't vote at town meeting have to do with any expertise that they may provide to a town? Would you restrict somebody who had a lot of financial expertise and maybe some good input just because they themselves, for some reason or another, maybe beyond our reasoning, aren't a voter in town? I would assume that you want them to be a resident. I just don't understand their qualification of being a voter.
I think basically the reason why the question came up at all was because where the Finance Committee charge falls under town meeting, under the being identified as part of the legislative body of town meeting, then
It's an advisory board to town meeting, not part of town meeting per se. Town meeting is its own entity. The Finance Committee's charge is to be an advisory board to assist town meeting. So I think they're very distinct from one another.
okay.
Well,
Okay.
the other thing that we discussed as part of that, as I recall, is that the Finance Committee is under the legislative branch. And at the opening of that section, it specifies that all members of the voting body shall be voters. And it defines a voter as one registered to vote in town. But we had a situation where town council read it differently, and so we had someone appointed to Finance Committee that wasn't a registered voter.
Right.
But if he had looked earlier in that section and read through the definition, it would have been clear that the way the charter is today, in order to fulfill that role, you need to be a registered voter. So we're not really changing the situation. We're not eliminating anybody because it's already designated that they need to be a registered voter. We're just clarifying for this appointment that, to make that clear.
I don't have
That's
the
all.
full charter with me, so
Yeah.
I'll make that note, but if that is true, then I would say that you're putting a redundancy in that you're removing in other places. If it's already listed that way, then you shouldn't
Well-
need to put it in.
And we were just doing it for clarification purposes, not to build redundancy, but to address an issue that we saw in that someone was appointed to a body that technically shouldn't have been appointed.
Okay. I will take a look at that.
Okay, your next section?
Yeah, next section is the next page, 2.4. So the addition, this one I feel pretty strongly about. I don't see the need to lock the town in by charter into a second town meeting when you already have the power to have a special town meeting anyway, and we only have them, except for special purposes, we always have a second town meeting at the time frame you're doing it. But to lock it in so we have to have one seems to me to be very restrictive and unnecessary.
Okay, the reason why we brought that forward was, again, in terms of trying to go for increased participation at those meetings. The requirements to bring forth warrant articles for a special town meeting is more restrictive than for a regular town meeting. So in order to increase participation without having to have one town meeting with 35 articles on it, like we're doing in a couple months, was to try to have people be able to plan for a second meeting, so that, and we joke about it being the planning board with bylaw presentations, to be able to plan for a second meeting so that that can happen. And if people in the public want to bring something forward to town meeting, it's not as big a hurdle as it would be to wait to see if a special town meeting is called.
So two things. First of all, I don't see any indication, when you talk about low turnouts, lengthy sessions and large agendas, I don't see anything that this was going to assist in that. I think that having two meetings people to go to instead of one a year, I guess you could make an argument, I could make a good argument that it actually would reduce the turnout. Because, you know what, planning board articles don't interest me if I'm Mr. and Mrs. Voter in Lunenburg, and so I won't go to those. And so you may have harder time getting people there. Second of all, lengthy agendas. The agendas have been fairly standard ever since I can remember being in town. They're always in the 30, 37 range in that. And so I think we're trying to do something to get people out of being responsible citizens, and I think we really need to promote people being responsible citizens. I don't know that it's too much to ask to somebody to be, attending for one day, for even if it's 7 hours, for one day a year, if you're interested in it and you think it's important and know how your money is spent and the policies and the bylaws are spent. I don't think dividing this up into two helps people attend more.
Okay, thank you on that one. What's
right.
next?
The next one is the 210, which is the rule of procedure. So again, I think it's very restrictive to actually mention town meeting time, and I would suggest a change in this. I would suggest that the wording from the latest version of town meeting time and be stricken, and the word other rules be stricken, and it should read, to me, the conduct of town meeting shall be governed by such rules and procedures that town meeting may, by bylaw, establish from time to time. And then have a bylaw that says that we do it by town meeting time. There's no reason to put town meeting time into the charter if at some point we want to change to Robert's rules. It seems, again, overly restrictive.
Got it. Thank you.
3.2D, the town accountant. So my first question is, you're removing the town accountant from being appointed directly by the Board of Selectmen. That was, as you noted, in another area, I think that Mr. Luck brought up, that the town accountant is the check and balance, one of the checks and balances, and one of the ways it's a check and balance is it's the only position in town in the finance area that's directly appointed by the Board of Selectmen, who can only that board can fire or hire the town accountant. So that was an insight into somebody having an independent view, an independent window into the financial area. That's number one. So I think removing it from the town, the Board of Selectmen's appointing powers is dangerous, if I don't overuse the word. But the second thing is, when you remove it there, I don't see where you've added, where does the town accountant go? Because the town accountant and the director of municipal finance are not the same thing. They are the same now because somebody holds two positions, but the two positions are not identical.
Okay, so we need to check that. The Board of Selectmen appoint the town accountant in the current charter, and the town manager appoints the finance director. The current charter, and they appoint, wait. I'm just trying. Heather, clarification? If I-
Well, we can hold it until next week.
Yeah, we'll hold that. We need
Okay.
clarification on that.
So I'll go to 4.1, which is the town manager appointment qualification and term. This is a simple
4.1.
one. You're removing the word "a list" near the third to the last line. You're replacing it with names.
Yes.
And then on the very last line, you refer to a list, so I would recommend that you take the list out and say
yeah.
the names.
Those, yes. The reason we put names instead of a list
Yeah, I'm
is
fine with
sometimes
it.
you only get one person who's qualified.
Yeah, we had a
Yeah, he's
town
just saying
ruling, a
change
town
that,
council
yeah.
ruling that a list can be one person. But if you're changing it to name or names, I
Yeah,
just think that
thanks.
the word
We
list should
didn't
be...
catch that.
Okay.
Okay, next. This is good.
So, 4.2I,
4.2I.
powers and duties of the town manager. I don't understand these different sections between, you have 2 pages with 4.2I.
Yeah, you know what? And Jim brought that up, and we are going to rewrite that
Okay.
so it makes more sense.
Well, he mentioned that it had subject to written policies twice, but you actually have, there are different line numbers in each of these places.
Yeah,
And-
I will apologize, because
Okay,
what
all right.
happened is I changed, and so I tried to go back to the version online rather than the one I had changed. So Jim, duly noted, right?
Yep.
That's the section you were talking about.
Correct.
Okay, 4.4C, acting town manager, the vacancy, Mr. Levesque has already talked about that. I completely concur. When we put this in, there were 3 different areas. Temporary absence, meaning a vacation, something planned. Unexpected or unanticipated temporary absence would be an injury, a sickness, somebody goes AWOL, they go missing for whatever reason, you can't find them, you don't know whether it's vacant or not. And a vacancy is completely
Okay.
different. That means you know it's empty.
Got it. Next.
And town accountant I already talked about. And the last thing would be for me, the red ones I'll keep for the red ones. for them.
You know what? At this point, all the red ones are going to town. We're not even going to discuss that at our next meeting, because it's either going to be appointed, I suppose the language would
Well,
have to be.
right, and
Yeah,
I have
you're
an
right,
issue about the language. So if it
Okay,
becomes appointed, I'll make my one point, even in the red.
All right,
just
I'll allow
because I'm
that,
up here.
because I hadn't thought of that, the language. If it's a quick point, I will do it.
It is a quick point. So if it is declared to be appointed by the town, you say, it says here, who, if not currently, shall be a resident of the town and a registered voter within 180 days. Well, if it's a paid employee, we put that restriction on no other employee, including the town manager. I would say that should be stricken. You shouldn't have to be a resident of town, and you shouldn't have to
I
move
believe that
here.
one's MGL.
What?
I think a town clerk has to be by
Registered voter.
MGL because of the election
Well,
responsibilities.
then we should put, by not putting the MGL citing here, it makes it look like you're choosing that, and if it is restricted, then fine, if Mass General Law restricts it.
Yeah, I think it has to do with overseeing the voting.
Okay,
Could,
fair enough.
Jamie, can I ask you to find that reference so that we can add it in next Wednesday, please?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alonso. All righto. So, is there someone else who would like to talk about the substantial changes? The chair recognizes the town moderator, Mr. Murphy.
Tim Murphy, 97 Island Road. I guess what I wanted to make sure is clear, we had a meeting to talk about how to present the chart. The guy's done a great job trying to get it organized, and it's not easy to organize.
Everything's all right?
So we had a meeting to talk about that, and it was discussed that we should really allow enough time.
No, it's all right. Thank you.
Sorry for the interruption,
It's
Mr.
okay.
Murphy.
We really should allow enough time to go over the charter because of how important it is. So that the thinking is that we'll do the charter on Monday night, that we'll do the regular town meeting on Saturday with the marijuana, which will also take a lot of time, and that we'll do the charter on Monday night. And one of the reasons for that is to give people enough time, but also that if there's going to be changes, and we're talking about the substantive changes now, that it's important that I have what the changes might be, whatever amendments people might be putting forward, to make sure that they're within the scope of the articles, and that they also are an opportunity for town council to look at them. So if you have changes that you want to propose, amendments that you want to propose on the floor, if you know them now, or whenever you know them, you'll get them to me. I'll get them to town council, or get them to me on Saturday at the regular Saturday meeting, and that'll give town council the weekend at least to kind of go over them, to make sure that they're going to be within the scope, within the law, so that whatever amendments you propose that are allowed will be, appropriate.
Sure. I recognize Mr.
I
Alonso.
just have one question about that, and when you finished
Board
up
of
your presentation, you spoke with the town moderator and asked about amendments, and the town moderator just mentioned amendments. And I remember in the last two committees, and again, we had different town council then, so I'm just going to put it out there, is that if you're proposing a charter in total, and you have 4 different charters that you're proposing, there was a limitation on amendments, because if you are amending the proposals to the charter, you're basically, you would open up the entire charter for amendments in its entirety. And I don't believe that's allowed.
What legal counsel is asking, has advised, is that any amendments be tweaking what is already there. So, for example, you wanted to take Article 4 out. Whatever Article 4 is, town manager, just take it out. No longer, that would not be within the scope. That is such a change that we would not do that. But it might be changing the wording of something, like what we discussed in a few things earlier today. What we cannot do at town meeting is open the entire thing up for any change. Anything that's actual in the original charter stays in the original charter, because we're not making any recommendations for changing that. So we're voting, I believe, Mr. Moderator, am I correct? We're voting on our recommended changes and voting
For
on...
1 minute to me. No,
All
Tim
right.
there. Tim Murphy.
Defer to Tim Murphy.
My time.
All right, fine, we're here to listen today. That's what, we need to hear this.
I think the idea is that there'll be a warrant article, right? Not that we're changing the whole charter, not that that the whole charter is before the town. What's before the town will be a warrant article, specific changes that are within a warrant article. And that's what'll be amended, and that's why it has to stay within the scope of the warrant article. So what you're going to get at home is that article, and you're going to want to make changes within that section, that warrant. Might be the blue, it might be the brown, it might be the purple, or whatever. So I think that way it'll stay structured. So we will pass some charter, when we're done. Maybe it's only the purple changes. Maybe it's only the brown changes.
Right, no, I understand that. I'm just saying in the past it has been that the charter review, because changing the charter and the charter article is different than most other articles because of the scope of it, that they weren't allowed to be any kind of large substantive changes.
Right, and they're not going
So
to be.
somebody's gonna have to be very clear in what people are allowed to propose, that's all.
Right.
Right.
It has to be within the warrant article.
That's why we're starting to announce it now, so that people know at this point you can't make a huge change. We're past that point. We're tweaking, right now we're tweaking, and we want to know if the tweaks that we've made are what the public want, or have we worded it correctly, or if it's something we should take out. Does that make sense? Well, excellent. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay, sir, come on up. If you could state your name and then hopefully where would be nice.
Clarence Floyd, 720 Goodrich Street. Did I hear you say you weren't going to discuss the red portion of the...
Well, I wasn't planning on it, but it is in the presentation. We can. But Mr. Alonso was nice to point out that we are making recommendations in wording, and that is within the scope of what you should talk about, yes. We're not discussing whether to appoint or elect. The town is going to vote on that. Does that make sense? But if you have questions on the wording, especially appointed town clerk, because that's the only change really, right? Is the wording of appointed.
I think I would go ahead and hear him.
Yeah, well, go ahead, speak, sir.
Well, I don't have any discussion on the wording. I just wanted to let the viewers know tonight that there are some people in the public that would like to see them on May the 4th at 9 a.m. at the annual town meeting. And when it comes to the question on the appointment or the election of the town clerk, that all the people I've been talking to, and I must have been talking to the wrong people, they would like for it to stay the same and be an elected position. That's pretty much what I have to say.
Excellent. And that's what I'm hoping happens, is that everyone comes out and voices their opinion, and then we will have a vote.
All right.
And then just as a point of clarification, and it's not necessarily for you, but it would be good for you to also hear this, can you do 2 meetings separately? Because basically, my sense would be, I don't even know that we're going to get through all the articles before the charter, so why would we not just do the meeting and see how far we get?
That's the plan so far.
I'm just because I'm only bringing that up because...
All right, so Tim Murphy, 97 Allen Road. Try to guess, okay? You know, marijuana is going to take a substantial amount of time, more than usual warrant articles, right? The last town meeting went until 4 o'clock. It was pretty late, you know, and add in that you're going to have a marijuana article and you're going to have a charter article, which I think we need to give enough time to both of them. So the thought is set the time aside so people can know that we're going to address this on Monday night, so that we don't shorten the conversation on marijuana, we don't shorten the conversation on the budget, and we get everything done we can at a somewhat normal hour, you know, because otherwise we're going to be serving dinner. And that was kind of the thought of that. We can do the 2 days. That was something as town council to review. He said we could, it wouldn't be a problem. It's just kind of a continuation of the town meeting that started on Saturday, as if we'd gotten, you know, too dark to have the meeting or lost power or something to that effect. So legally we can do it. To me, it makes sense to do it that way so that everybody has plenty of time to discuss it.
Yeah, I would just be, I guess the reason why I also just bring up concern is that, as just gentleman was saying, that, you know, he's telling people to show up on Saturday morning, and if we're not even going to do it until Monday night, I also think it does kind of rule out a lot of people who don't drive at night.
One of the reasons we decided to discuss it and announce it in advance was so that people could make arrangements for daycare for their children, make arrangements for rides, make those arrangements in advance. And if the Saturday runs over and doesn't do all of the Saturday, I believe they were going to just do as they usually do and continue it to Tuesday for the rest of the regular town meeting. But by setting aside Monday, it was my opinion, or my thought, what I understood was this way here, that everyone now has 2 months to make arrangements. If they're that concerned about the charter, that they can make their arrangements, whether they contact a friend to help them bring them there, whether I have 3 children, I need to hire a babysitter, well, I'll get a high school kid who will come in and sit. So if we wait till Saturday at 4 and make an announcement, we're going to go to Monday, everyone is scrambling to do things, and that also is not fair. So that was...
But this hasn't been determined yet.
No, it's the Board of Selectmen who determined this.
Right.
I'm
Right,
just
so you're making it
explaining-
sound like it's a done deal,
Chair, if I
and it
might.
hasn't been determined.
That very question on whether the town meeting specifically allocates items for Saturday or Monday, or whether it starts on Saturday with the expectation that it most likely could continue on a Monday night, will be made at next Tuesday's selectmen meeting.
So next Tuesday.
Certainly, any input from this group tonight is welcome, but in addition, it's on the agenda for next Tuesday at the selectmen meeting. It has been questioned, we do have to talk about it, and, you know, people who have an opinion one way or the other should voice it here or voice it before next Tuesday's meeting.
Thank you very much. That's excellent. Because it is the Board of Selectmen who do this.
Unfortunately.
I'm just announcing it so it's out there. Those are the thoughts that are out there for this, so that no one is blindsided and at the last minute says, what? you know? So, just informational. And I'm sorry if it sounds like it's a done deal. That I do apologize for. Katie Adams.
Katie Adams, Williams Drive, as a citizen, so I won't say one way or the other really how I feel about this topic since it will come before us. But what I will say is I feel like we're hypothesizing the lengths of what would happen, and I don't think that's appropriate. We're saying that marijuana will take a long time. I mean, we don't know what the body will do or how fast. It could be a quick no, it could be a quick yes.
Okay.
We're hypothesizing that something's going to happen that may or may not, and I think in and of itself, that shouldn't be a reason to create a new set of standards for setting up a meeting. Any article we could get bogged down on something that you would not expect to at all. And so I think that I don't like to say that marijuana is going to take a long time.
Well, just so you know, as a retired school teacher, I try to plan for every continuance, everything. And so when we were meeting about town meeting, I said, what if? And so we discussed it. And I'd rather have a discussion. And I am really glad that this Board of Selectmen are going to talk about it on Tuesday so that we can get the accurate information out. Because now on Wednesday during our meeting, we'll have an accurate idea of what's going to happen.
And I just, as it was just mentioned, for a long time now, we've referred to as town meeting being on Saturday, May 4th, in a variety of ways that has already been established. So I just don't think this is the year to establish a different outcome, perhaps, but opinion to be determined at a later
Just so you know, in my years at the school, I can't tell you how many concerts
I'm not debating
I've had
it, I'm just saying
canceled
that's
and moved
public
because of
hearing.
town meeting
Member of the public.
took over, because they take precedence because the town meeting went over to a second day. Anyway, anyone else? Sir, do you want to finish up? Because I know Mr. Murphy came in to explain.
Clarence Ford, 720 Goodrich Street again. I was wondering on the green portion, are you going to allow any comment on that?
Sure, if you would like to say something about,
lot of the peop-
actually,
Okay, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead, go for it.
A lot of the people in town that I've been talking to have asked me, if it's not broke, why are we going to fix it? And I've told them, I said, well, I'd present that tonight, and the people that are going to come to vote, I hope they will vote to leave it
And
the
as
way
I
it is.
stated, we're going to have pros and cons, but there have been several members of the public and some of the committee, I got to keep remembering it's committee, have brought up they would like to have the change. So we've heard from both sides,
Good.
so that's why we decided to let the town decide. It really isn't ours to decide, because there are people on the other side that would like to see select board.
I've heard from them, too.
And we will, oh, good, thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay, Mr. Rogers, do you want to come up?
Dave Rogers, 82 Highland Street. I'd like to reference Section 1.4, Division of Powers, with specific regard to the naming or renaming, proposed renaming of the Board of Selectmen, and cause your attention to be seen on page 33.
We don't have page numbers, we just have...
You numbered yours?
Well,
Good for
I'm
you.
going from this,
Oh, you're on the numbered
the
one.
numbered page, that,
Okay.
All right, what's the line number? Maybe that, oh, you're talking about the very first one?
yep.
The draft that has...
11.4. I didn't have the benefit of this, so I couldn't, make any review on that.
It's not in the presentation.
What's the section?
I thought he said 1.4 division of powers. Did you say
So,
division of powers?
He's working
Yes.
off the draft.
Yeah,
not the
that's
presentation.
the first page, 1.4, okay? And it says to change, formerly called the Board of Selectmen to the Select Board. I want to make reference to Section 7.4, page, line 1021.
What color was it?
I'm sorry, it's 7.5, number and gender. Okay? Words importing the singular number may extend and be applied to several persons or things. Words importing the plural number may include the singular. Words importing the female gender and include the masculine gender. So I just cause that, to take a look at it, because it's already in here, so, yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying. It's at 964 on the draft that has everything taken out.
So 964. Yeah, I know, I was trying to find it real quick because I wasn't planning on,
It's 964, section 7-5, number and gender.
ooh, I gotta go a lot farther.
64.
Oh, a lot farther. All right, 7-4. Yep.
7-5.
Ooh, 7-4.
75.
Oh, 7-5.
7-6.
Stop,
Wait.
stop.
Sold to the man with the...
You know what it is? Yeah, okay, there we go.
9 what?
Under number and gender.
Yep, okay,
Okay.
got it. 'Cause
I don't
it's
know
on
if
2
that
pages.
sheds any light on the issue, but I just bring it to your attention.
Okay.
Okay, on page number 3, line 68 on quorum. Now, this is a question for the town moderator. Does the charter stipulate, Mr. Moderator, how many voters must be present to have a quorum?
Yes.
It does.
No.
It does.
Does?
At town meeting, it does.
It's in the bylaw.
I thought it was bylaws.
Okay, so we refer to that, and this just deals with the, okay, fine. All right, to Mr. Alonso's point, number 126, line 126, I think we could solve this problem by taking out the word shall and put may. There may be.
Second town meeting.
There may be a second town meeting.
Brown, 2-4.
Page number 6, section 2.7, initiation of warrant articles. I guess it's a,
2.7.
It's where we were talking about the second town meeting.
It's saying there may be instead of shall be.
the second, have you got this reference to
Yeah,
the second town meeting?
are you
Okay.
still on 2-4?
Yeah, okay. The initiation of warrant articles. From my point of view, if 10 signatures
Okay,
are enough
2-7.
for an annual town meeting, why should there be a requirement to have 10 times that for a special town meeting?
Not sure, we didn't even look at that.
Okay?
Is that
I think that's MGL.
MGL?
That's the Mass General laws that stipulate how many.
Yeah.
Wow.
One of the reasons we wanted to do a second town meeting is because the requirements for a special town meeting are very hard. You need 100 people. How many people do you need to do a citizens petition?
200, I
You
think?
need,
Just have a meeting, to force a meeting.
I know you need a
force
quorum
meeting,
of
but
50 people to have a
To
town
add an
meeting.
article, a warrant,
10.
Okay, well, it's a moot point. If it's
It's
Mass General
just a
laws,
large
it's Mass
number.
General laws. The question that is not in the charter that I have a question about is the numerical order of warrant articles. How they're, I know that the Board of Selectmen, queues them up, but there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to how they're queued up. And I'd be less than candid with you if I didn't tell you that I think that it's sometimes, some articles are put at the end of the town meeting when they probably shouldn't, but take it from there. Page 7, rules of procedure.
and line item?
Section number, Mr.
I'm
210?
sorry, Section 2.10.
Thank you very much.
Line number, 188, okay? It says that the conduct of town meetings shall be governed by the latest version of town meeting time and such other rules and procedures that town meeting may, by bylaw, establish from time to time. And if you've taken out amend, revise, and repeal. So I read this to mean that there's no possibility to amend or revise any of the procedures. And I wonder why.
Good question. Well, I don't know if it's in the bylaws already.
Okay?
I have the bylaws here. We could do a quick search of the 400 pages.
Yeah, let's,
I will look.
My intent is not to belabor the point, but it's just a question.
Wait, let me amend. I will check bylaws. And we need to check that word, too. Check. Got it. How do we amend? Check bylaws for specifics. I did try to read the bylaws. 400 and some odd pages.
Yeah, well, I certainly, I mean, I just,
I couldn't put it down. It was riveting.
Page 8, the,
Section, please.
section 3.1.
Okay.
3.1.
It,
Is it purple?
it deals with how vacancies are filled, and if you do the math, you know, the Board of Selectmen has 5 members, and if it's, you know, 3 members of the whatever committee, and one of them is gone, so there's only 2, the deck is stacked. I mean, they, you know, if it's a majority, then the 2 members of the, what do you mean? No.
Isn't a quorum of 5 people supposed to be 3?
yes,
No matter how
Somebody
many.
resigns, you're filling a vacancy.
You
doesn't
still need
matter.
3.
What?
If someone resigns and there's only 4 people, a
No,
quorum.
if you have 3 on the cemetery commission,
Oh, I
and
see,
one of them
yeah.
resigns, you only have 2
Okay.
left.
Okay,
So you're filling the vacancy. You go before the Board of Selectmen, they have 5 people. So it's 5 against 2. The deck is stacked. Right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so, just so you know. Let's see. While we're talking about that, it's my opinion, as an overview of all of this, that with the 5 selectmen on the board, if they do a vote and it's the majority of 3, those 3 people, whoever they might be, can control what goes on in the town of Lunenburg. How? Because they, the Board of Selectmen, appoint the town manager. Now, if you work for the Board of Selectmen, I would think that, you know, you'd probably be inclined to do what the Board of Selectmen want you to do.
That'd be nice.
Now, following this further, if the town manager asks for help in various things, those people will do what the town manager wants. So it's, at any one time, if you get 3 people on the Board of Selectmen, they can control what happens in the town of Lunenburg, and I don't think that's right.
If you look there, just, I mean, clarification, I want to make sure I have what you
Sure.
said correctly. The town manager shall be appointed by the Board of Selectmen from a list submitted to it by a town manager screening committee.
Sure.
So there's a committee that gives a list.
No, you're missing my point.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, the town manager has been selected and is in office,
Okay.
okay?
I thought you were talking about town manager.
Selecting or-
Oh,
no.
okay.
No.
Selecting a town manager. I apologize.
That's all right. On page,
What page is it?
number 12.
Page 12, which is section?
Page 12. It talks about
School committee.
the investigation of someone in town, and it goes on and says that the town manager investigates the affairs of the town and the conduct of any town agency included in the doubtful claims against the town. The report of the results of such investigation shall be placed on file in the office of the Board of Selectmen. And a detailed report and a summarized report shall be published in the next annual town report. It was my understanding that the town clerk is the keeper of all records. And I think that the town clerk should be the keeper of any kind of a report or investigation.
Okay, that's currently not one of our recommendations. Are you asking we include that as a recommendation?
Yes, yeah.
So you're including?
Making
All
that
right,
change,
can-
yeah.
If you give me a moment to make a
Sure.
note of that, please. So that's 3-2E. Add town clerk, line 335. File. Thank you for your patience. Next.
All right, the next one is page 13, please. And I go through until page 18, and I'll just read this, and you'll know why. To diminish, delete, or otherwise usurp the authority of town committees and boards elected by the voters of the town, thus affecting the duties and responsibilities of the Board of Assessors, the Cemetery Commissioners, the Park Commissioners, and the Board of Sewer Commissioners by appointing the town manager as the person responsible for the day-to-day operations of the committees or boards listed above, and further, to make the town manager responsible for supervision, evaluation, and all personnel actions of the sewer business manager and the land use director. Is that really what we want to do?
If you could help me and give me a line number?
Sure.
Or are you
Well,
just?
it's the last line of each of those, like
Oh, it's the
cemetery.
last line.
commission,
Thank you very
Refers
much.
to the day-to-day care and maintenance shall be under the supervision.
So that's the concept. My point is this,
Oh,
we
I see.
have 21 elected folks in the town on those various committees. They're elected, not appointed, okay? But yet we have someone who is a town employee that takes over the day-to-day activities of that board or commission or whatever, and I just don't think that's right. It doesn't make good common sense. So, that's my comment on that. I'm not going to belabor the point. So I could speak an hour about that one. And I know Tom doesn't want me to, so. And he's right. That's good.
Okay.
Page 21. We have a line here. Page 21. Allow the town manager, I'm going to try and give you a number here. I'll read it first, then you can get the gist of it. Allow the town manager, after being instructed by the Board of Selectmen, to disband, do away with, or otherwise remove members of the Personnel Committee, and instead direct the town manager to become the new personnel manager. So it's just doing away with that committee, and we're putting that responsibility on the town manager.
Do you have an idea what line number? I just want to make sure we're.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
okay. I'm patient.
Talks about the appropriate
Is it under powers and duties?
to
section
appoint and appropriate
To remove subject to the provisions of the town personnel?
Yeah.
I have it as D.
Yeah.
I have it as 638, but it's the wrong line
Provide such
item.
appointments shall become
Right
effective,
here.
blah, 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 blah.
You're talking this section right here.
Okay?
To appoint. Okay. My numbers are going to be slightly different. I'm using the wrong
Okay.
one at the moment. 638. So can you explain your concern again quickly? Or-
Yeah, all of a sudden, the Personnel Committee is gone, which has been a standing committee, and the town manager is now the Director of Personnel.
And in 648, you'll notice, it says to be the personnel administrator who, and it eliminates, it crosses off in conjunction with a personnel board established by law,
Right.
By bylaw.
by bylaw. So, you're right, it is just eliminating the personnel board.
Eliminates. Okay, Heather, would you come up to the microphone, please?
Is this a change?
Just to clarify.
Well, yeah,
It's
that's a
still
change.
Salary administration bylaw, which establishes the personnel board. It doesn't eliminate the personnel board.
Well, it eliminates their responsibility.
No, that was Brown added, and
You're crossing off in conjunction with the personnel board established by bylaw. So she's the personnel administrator, now she's not doing it in conjunction with the personnel board.
is that the language in the original charter?
I don't know.
Original charter, I believe, says to be entrusted with the administration of a town personnel system. The town manager would be entrusted
And so we added.
with
Brown
the administration of a town
plus
personnel system.
Yeah, so we're not taking it out of the charter, we're taking it out of one of the first versions of possible revisions.
Yes.
Right, which shouldn't,
Phyllis?
Oh, but I thought we weren't going to do that.
No, the charter is what's there in black. So all the Brown says is to add to be the personnel administrator who is, as opposed to saying to be entrusted with. That's the only change that this board that this committee is recommending at this moment.
And this is powers and duties of the town manager.
The stuff that's struck out was never there.
Yeah, that stuff is not in the
Not in the
original.
charter.
But to be the personnel administrator wasn't there either.
Right.
Right.
So you want to take that out, that's fine. Then you say, to be entrusted with the administration
it
of.
isn't entrusted.
Then it would just revert to the original, to be entrusted with the administration of a town personnel system.
Can we go back to the other section that Mr. Rogers referenced, which was by a vote of the Board of Selectmen? Wasn't there? What
Okay.
was the
I
first
think
part
it
of
was
that?
the Section D of that same,
D,
Page
right up here?
21?
Right up here?
No,
To
it's
appoint an
further up.
appropriate?
I think it's further up. He said 621.
well, he said page 21.
He said, my numbers are a little bit off.
Oh, okay.
So if this is D, to appoint and in appropriate circumstance to remove, correct, Mr. Rogers?
Sorry?
To appoint and in appropriate circumstances to remove, that was the section you talked about earlier, correct?
Yes.
Your question?
Well, I just wanted to go back to see that wording as well
like
as
this.
it relates to E, so.
Oops. Oh, I can't do that. Wait a minute, there must be a way, oh, yeah. Ooh, how's that?
This was,
It's a little bigger. I'm working on this. So, you would like to see,
Well, I raised the question, Mr. Chairman. I mean,
Yeah.
we have a personnel committee, okay?
Yeah.
And it's done away with at the behest of the Board of Selectmen, and the town manager now is the whatever of the personnel, you know?
No,
It's-
no, it's covered in the bylaws. It's not done away with at the behest of the Board of Selectmen. The Personnel Committee is spelled out in the employee, what was it? Salary admin plan, which is a bylaw. If anybody, including the Board of Selectmen, wants to change that, that's a bylaw change that has to go to town meeting.
So in conjunction with the personnel board is,
That's fine.
can't be,
something we thought of, and then we decided we didn't
I
want.
have the original charter, it says to be in conjunction with the personnel board
Oh.
established by the bylaw entrusted with the administration.
Thank
So
you,
we
Jim.
are taking out in conjunction with the personnel board, which is in the current bylaw, and adding in to be the personnel administrator.
so you are taking it out.
So it is being taken out, correct?
So, and I don't know,
No, wait a minute. What are you taking out?
The strikeout is current language in the charter.
That
It
is in the charter,
That
yes.
is in the charter.
Okay.
We're removing that from the charter, not as a,
So what happens is that really should
Change that we had
just
made.
not be in brown, it should be in black with a strikeout. You know what? If it's okay,
and actually it shouldn't be taken out.
well,
I'm going to do that.
that's the question,
Yeah.
right? And
Well-
that's for our discussion next week.
Okay. And I just
If I'm
changed
not
it to black
mistaken.
here in public,
Right.
so what?
If I'm not mistaken, that should be for
Yeah,
our
well, that's
discussion.
what's going to happen next week, was going to go
So
over
where the heck is
everything.
it in this thing?
So I don't think it's in the PowerPoint.
It must be.
Well, it must be.
Yes,
So it would
it is.
be,
Brown?
It was BE.
What
That was Ian
section is it?
Brown.
It's
It's in
4-2.
42D.
Two D or not two D? 42E.
Yeah,
Page 41.
4-2E, yeah.
So let's write that in, 42E. Please realize that some of the Browns and all that were done before I was chairperson, so. It's my disclaimer, because I took what was given to me, and I've worked with it since.
Steve, not a problem.
I'm gonna write should be in black, should be,
Bob's cell phone number.
Should discuss.
and you know, he's gonna tell us right now. I can't remember, should be black in original. Good, thank you for bringing that up. Is there something else you'd like to bring up?
Yes, I'll try to move this along.
Great.
I'm sorry, but.
No, you've done
Have
great.
full, I have written down here, page 21, and
Yep.
I'm sorry I don't have a line number, that the town manager shall have full jurisdiction over rental, use, maintenance, and repair of all town facilities except schools.
That would be I.
Is that I?
42I. Yes, and that's the one we are going to look at next week, and I've targeted Jim to actually rewrite that to make sense.
Okay, thanks.
How's that?
Quick.
So Jim, that's 3 times it's
Are
been
you
referenced.
changing the meaning, or just,
The way it's written is confusing and duplicated, so Jim was going to come up with a more concise.
but I think,
Well, there
I
was
think we're also, we're disputing the intent,
Well, I think that what also
more than the
changed,
language.
what also changed was the addition of, the change to the change was the addition of the line that it would be based on, subject to written policies set forth by elected officials. So if they're doing anything on behalf of the parks, it's consistent with what the Parks Department have written as policies, or the cemetery has written as policies.
Or the sewer.
Correct,
sewer.
we're adding that,
Yeah.
and we are striking from the original charter everything after the semicolon.
And shall be responsible for the maintenance and repair of all town, yeah, so that's all
That is in
coming
the
out.
current
Right,
charter.
right.
All right, thanks. In-
Page, are we all set?
Yep.
set.
Okay.
Thank you.
Some stuff's
Page
added.
22, line 696. It says, Q, to reorganize, we're talking about the town manager. To reorganize, consolidate, or abolish, in the manner provided in Article 5, town agencies serving under the supervision of the town manager, in whole or in part, provided for new town agencies and provide for reassignment of powers, duties, and responsibilities among such agencies so established or existing.
Right, we've made no recommendation for a change at the moment. There is no change, that's the original.
Okay.
It's 2009. There is, if you look on the board, there's no brown, there's no purple, there's no red, there's no green.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure that I'm in agreement with that.
Okay, what would you like?
Well, again, I mean, it's the concept, and I'm sorry I don't have the specificity of words and stuff, but it's the concept here.
Okay.
If you look at all of these various pieces of this puzzle, it's really straightforward. I mean, the town manager is the be-all and do-all, and she can delegate, and before you know it, the committees are gone, they have no responsibility, no authority, and, you know, the Board of Selectmen, through the town manager, through the designee, you know, controls the town. That's
Okay.
the concept.
I
Okay?
wrote that down, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Next.
Section 4.3.
Delegation of authority, we've made no recommendation to change any of that.
Okay. All right. I think the concern is pretty much self-evident.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't see that far.
Okay,
I can-
line number 780.
780.
Administrative plan.
Yep, got it. That is,
The town manager may, from time to time, after consultation with the select board, prepare and submit to the town meeting plans of organization or reorganization which establish operating divisions for the orderly, efficient, and convenient conduct of the business of the town. And then it goes on to talk about that. And the last sentence, which is on 790, all the way over, the town meeting may vote only to approve or disapprove the plan and may not vote to amend or to alter it.
Okay, we've made no recommendations in that section.
Well, you should, I think.
Do you have a suggestion?
Yeah, I mean, this is so dictatorial. I mean, this is it. I mean, it's town meeting, that we should be able to do what the town meeting wants to do.
No,
After public hearing.
No?
no, not change the charter.
See, therein lies the issue. There are some things in here relative to the charter and the way things are organized that I think really are problematic. But
Okay,
I
duly
understand your
noted.
point.
Next section.
Let's see. I guess that's what I have. The main thing is that I think the folks of the town that are elected, and there's 21 of them, don't have responsibility and control over that which they're elected to do. And
Okay.
that's my point of view, especially when you take out the fact that and this is really poignant insofar as I'm concerned. The town manager shall be responsible for the review and the administration and all of the stuff of the business manager for the sewer department. But the sewer committee, in concert with the business manager there, makes the whole thing work, and all of a sudden, they don't have any control or input to this stuff? I mean, that doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense, my point of view. So, thank you for your time. I took too much of it, I'm sure, but
No,
thank you.
thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Sure, but I know Mr. Luck wants to come up also, so go ahead.
I'm taking
It's
up
broken.
on one of the points that
Water.
Oh, water.
Mr. Rogers made.
I thought it was the bathroom.
I felt it necessary to relay to you some of the comments, or one of the comments that I've gotten from a lot of the people, and I'll have to read it, because it says, the reason a lot of people are not volunteering to be on town committees and such is that they may have to go before the Board of Selectmen so the board can determine if they are qualified. Which basically means to many of them that if they're a party liner and a horse holder for the Board of Selectmen, there's a good chance they'll be appointed. Otherwise, maybe not. They asked me to relay that. I thank you for your time.
Chair recognizes
Recognizes.
recognizes Mr. Luck. Go ahead for it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's nice to be recognized. Carl Luck, 50 Sunset Lane. I have two roles tonight. One is as a private citizen, but probably the more important one is as a sewer commissioner. Is this mic not working?
Yeah, don't touch it, because it makes a big noise.
As a sewer
out
commissioner.
Online.
And I'd like to address that one first. It relates very strongly to
Okay.
many sentiments.
Is
Mr.
there a
Rogers.
section in the presentation that I can go to?
Yeah, well, it's a statement relative to section 4-2I. That's come up several times this evening.
42I, oops, in the brown, correct?
With the
Yes.
jurisdiction.
Yep. 42I, just so the people in the audience can see it too.
Yep.
Right.
Thank you. All right, so 42I.
4-2I. So,
Got it.
At the request and with full authorization of the Sewer Commission, I'd like to provide the Charter Review Commission with the following inputs that were approved by the Sewer Commission. After discussion at 2 open meetings, it is the unanimous feeling and vote of the Commission that the proposed change to Section 42I significantly changes the charter and authority of the Sewer Commission, shifting current practices and authorities of the Commission to the town manager. That is, it changes the current charter from having the day-to-day operations, care, and maintenance of the sanitary sewers under the supervision of the town manager, to giving the town manager full jurisdiction and adding use, rental, and repair. It's clearly a very big change. To be clear, we feel that including language about being subject to policies does not provide sufficient mitigation or opportunity to avoid potential and significant unintentional consequences due to such a change, some of which Mr. Rogers referred to. As such, the Sewer Commission has voted to request that no change be made to Section 42I of the existing charter.
Was it that there be no change, or that
No
the Sewer
change.
Commission be added?
If,
And
you
I
read
have
my
on
next
our-
paragraph.
I have on my
If-
agenda that we're going to discuss that at our next meeting.
Yes, and I certainly hope you do, and I certainly hope I can be there and be part of the discussion. But if it's, I think deleting that change entirety is the right way to go, not for just for sewer, but for the town. However, if you don't see your way to doing that, then it is not, it's, if it's not acceptable for reasons other than, that we're not aware of, the Sewer Commission also voted to request to add Sewer Commission as an exemption to this paragraph, as has previously been submitted to your committee.
Yep.
So the current language then excludes sewer commission and already includes the rental use of all town facilities and property except for school committee,
Doesn't
library
it-
trustees, and conservation commission, correct?
Yeah, but the library trustees have,
They just wanted to be pulled out, so
They
that
wanted
was
to
the
be
change.
pulled out
Clear, we
because
So
they
we
this
would
is-
prefer no change at all to the current charter. Leave it as is.
Which leaves all of
Still
the,
leaves the sewer properties under the control of the town manager.
No, only,
Just the
what you're
rental
deleting
use.
that's most important is, it says in that, it's that last sentence, what used to be, it says, "and shall be responsible for maintenance, repair of all town buildings under the town manager's control by this charter," which would refer to other paragraphs.
okay.
They'd have to be given that control, that ability under other paragraphs. And for sewer, they're given the supervision of maintenance and repair. They're not given full jurisdiction over maintenance repair. There's a very big difference between full jurisdiction, meaning they adjudicate anything, that you can't override them, that's full jurisdiction, versus supervision of maintenance and repair, where the Sewer Commission has a very big input to maintenance and repair via the budget and the process. So it's a huge difference. Your change is huge, and it affects sewers in a very big way, and it affects almost every other commission in town. So, to be clear, the request is, don't make any changes to the current charter. The Sewer Commission is happy with the way it is in the current charter, not this change, current charter. If you can't see your way to do that, then we want sewer added along with the school and conservation as being exempt from this paragraph.
okay.
And just for clarification, you feel that business is conducted today in accordance with the charter, as it exists today?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe so.
Well, I just want to
There
be
may be
clear on that,
variations,
because
but-
if the recommendation is to keep the status quo language,
Yeah, we're
but
comfortable
what
with this.
we're doing in reality, it doesn't reflect that language, then now's your time to change it.
Yeah. We're happy with the current language. The Sewer Commission is happy with the current language. When I get to my personal, that'll be different. But we're happy with the current language, or make us, or if you make this change, put it as an exception. Just to finish my statement on behalf of the sewer, to demonstrate how seriously the Sewer Commission members feel, if neither of these requests are found acceptable to your committee and the current draft language is brought forward to the town, we intend to bring this issue to the floor at the town meeting, and we'll propose an amendment. this statement is not intended to be a threat, just an expression of how concerned we are that this change could have serious long-term effects on the sewer commission, the sewer system operation, and ultimately our customers.
Thank you.
It would help me if you could kind of think of some examples of how this could be a negative impact, because I'm not all that familiar with.
It's a fair question, but I would put it back, this committee is the one who wants to make the change. I would say that you should give us some examples of how this makes anything better. How
These
is
are
this
the
going to improve
recommendations
things?
from the people that have talked to us.
Not the sewer commission.
I believe during the year you were contacted by someone on this board.
I wish you hadn't brought that up. I wish you hadn't brought that up.
And I shouldn't have brought that up.
I know, I've watched this process. I know people early on were assigned to be liaisons to the commissions. We never had a single liaison come to a single meeting. The only person who ever came to one meeting was Bob Ebersol, who is not the commission but has history with us, who let us know about a meeting, and that if we wanted changes, we should think about it. No one ever came and solicited our input right up till
On behalf
tonight.
of the committee, I will apologize for that.
No, I'm just saying that it's not correct that we've been, pulled in or asked our inputs in the process. But this is it.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, you said you had personal?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have specific spots?
Yes, I do. It's hard to correlate everything. We've got so many documents flying. The first one is 3, and I'll do them in order.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'll try to do that. 3-2D.
Okay, give us a second, find 3-2D.
Is it purple?
Nope, it's brown.
Don't do color thing.
There's,
Page 29.
it's got several pages. Are you talking about this page here, sir?
The Board of Selectmen, 2D?
Yes.
2D Board of Selectmen?
Yes.
Got several pages.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is the one that of concern, because this is where the town accountant and the council on aging director are moved from the Board of Selectmen to the town manager. Again, that same theme of moving things away from appointed elected officials to the town manager, and I'm strongly against doing that.
Look. Oh, no, I didn't do that. Okay, never mind. I thought I had another thing.
I think maybe in that same one. In that same one, we talk about the animal control officer being appointed by the town manager, and other appointments that I think maybe weren't identified anywhere in the charter, so getting them in the charter is a good thing. But getting them into the charter and just, again, adding on to the town manager and not having the elected officials have more say in terms of who's running this town. Section 3-10C. This is the one I think you said that there's.
Is it this one here, the planning board?
Yeah, there's going to be some change here or something, maybe address it myself?
Actually, yeah, just that last 497. The town manager will be responsible for supervision, evaluation, and all personnel actions relating to this position.
No, I'm looking at 499. Is that?
That's out.
That's out.
The only reason it's in is when I posted this online, I had forgotten to take it out. And so I felt, to be transparent, I could not take it out without saying that we are going to take this out.
Okay.
So, and it didn't have lines through it, and it was brought to my attention when I met with Heather, the town manager, that this was supposed to be taken out. She didn't want this, and it was one of those that when Bob and I switched over, either I forgot to do, he forgot to do, or as I was doing things, I forgot to do.
Yeah,
so that's going to be out.
Okay,
but I
great.
wanted to be transparent and make sure that no one said, well, why is it missing suddenly?
See, my wish is
That's a
true
great
already.
question.
That's good.
Keep asking.
Okay. God, which one was that? 3-2-10. Just a comment on the town clerk needing to be a resident. I think you said that was a general mass law, so
Yeah.
no choice on that. 4-2-E.
Powers and duties of the town manager.
Yeah, that's the one that we just talked about.
Right.
Deleting that in conjunction with the Personnel Board, I think is
That's
is
in the
a huge
original.
issue.
So I put a note in my notes that should be in black in the original, and we'll discuss that next week to keep it or not keep it.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Okay. Done that one. 42E?
Oh, E again?
We were just there?
We're just there.
Same thing.
Maybe I got the wrong reference. It was, my copy was the September, no, it was the February 27th, I think.
Oh.
What's the title?
If it's not 4,
Was it 42E?
it's 702 in that, so I'll look it up.
So is that to be the
702.
personnel administrator or no?
That's not slated for any changes, as far as I can see. Wait,
Yeah.
but maybe it is.
Yeah, this is under
Is it 42S?
S, yes.
Oh,
S.
okay.
I can't read my own writing, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, in 42S, it's deleting from the capital, from the capital, not capital, the budget, the words related to infrastructure maintenance. I think this is the, long-term financials. This would be like our 5-year forecast, right?
Right.
That's what we're talking about. So we're removing related to infrastructure, maintenance, improvement, and expansion. And I think those are very important things to have in the 5-year.
I think,
Yes.
I know when we met with town manager and several committee members have mentioned that it's already in there. Those are examples, and it was just,
So I would
we wanted to make sure that people didn't think those were the only things there.
Yeah, so I would
Should we
suggest
put, for
a
example?
change be considered, including, not for example. Those are important things, and they should be in there. And I do not believe they are in the 5-year forecast that was just issued.
Oh, I did not.
I
look
can't
at the
find
5-year
anything that
forecast.
looks like infrastructure,
All right.
maintenance, improvement, expansion in the 5-year structure. So I think they're very important, and it should say
of.
including those.
Word from the right on the first line.
Okay. I think that, but then just eliminate the delete is my strong recommendation, because those are really important, and that's what gets us in trouble. And I
All
think
right.
that's why they were put in the charter to begin with, because they are so important. Okay? Already took care of that one, thanks to same thing, 6-5.
6-5.
Under, I think it's budget. It used to be,
C?
The budget, yeah. C, 6S5C, the budget?
yes.
Okay, turn to that page. Oh, yeah, we wanted to take out estimated surplus revenue and free cash at the end of the current fiscal year, including estimated balances and any special accounts. We already do that.
Well, if we already do it, what's the harm in leaving it? I don't know that we do it. I don't think we
Well,
do it, tell you the
actually-
truth.
oh,
Where are
wait,
we, 6.5C?
6.5C, I'll let the finance people talk, that one, right here.
Covers all- Identify.
The budget presentation.
I think it's just basically because we just want them to identify all other available sources of funding.
All sources. When it was explained to me by different people, it was that they felt that it might limit, because it doesn't say like example of, it just says estimated this, and the other thing, whereas identify all other available sources of funding is everything.
I want to say, too, that some of this was the finance director, and actually me as somebody who does budgets and stuff. There was a lot of, can we take some language out? So it was more trimming, and it was more because really the purpose of the identifying sources of funding is to identify all sources of funding. So that was just her take on it, and it was just otherwise too wordy. I would have just basically taken out whole sections and just referred back to Mass General Law, because most of what the town accountant has to do is so spelled out in Mass General Law. It's
You know, Mass General Law
But I'm
is
very confused here,
available-
though, because
Well, why would you leave it in?
Because I want to see those things. When we
But
see
you
a
will see
budget-
those things.
They're not in the budget now. I don't see an estimate of free cash at the end of the period in the budget. Do you?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So the estimated free cash coming to the end of the year?
I think that's what this says.
I'm
At
not
the
sure
end
that
of
we're
the current
estimating
fiscal
free
year.
cash.
No, this is the 5-year plan, isn't it?
No,
No, this is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is the
I'm in the wrong
budget.
section.
No, actually, what this does is in the current budget, what is being identified, the free cash that's available as of the end of the current fiscal year is actually written into the capital plan. So that's how we're paying for that. So that's identifying the source of funding for the capital plan.
For one item. It's not identifying.
No, it's the whole thing. It's basically, the capital plan committee is given a budget that incorporates what has gone through is, all right, so we have $778,000 in free cash. So we're going to put $600,000 into capital. We're going to put $100,000 into the OPEB. Like, basically, that's identifying what the source of revenue is and where it's going to go. And that's where the estimate of free cash comes in, as my understanding.
That's what I was going to suggest.
Can we get the word?
Yeah, I was,
The whole thing.
this is the whole section. I put the whole section up.
Piece of the whole.
Yeah.
So that now, because you're asking a little bit more than,
65C.
let's see if I can do this. Ooh, that's way too much.
It doesn't
Sorry
matter, I
about that.
still can't see it.
Section 6.5.
Yeah, I can see, yeah,
Okay.
that part I know.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about, but you wanted to see this, right? I just wanted you to know, just to see, is it listed somewhere else in there?
What?
It says proposed expenditures, proposed capital expenditures, and then identify all other sources. Surplus revenue.
You're talking about C, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about C, but I was looking to see, is it written somewhere else, duplicate?
No, it's not a duplicate.
Okay. And it says, it says up here, in a form which the town manager deems desirable or the Board of Selectmen may require.
Well, that's okay. Go ahead and address C.
Okay. So the budget does include all revenue sources, which is the certified free cash for that year.
Oh, certified free cash is in there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know, I haven't seen the budget, so,
It's in there every year. Yes.
okay, I don't know.
Yes. It's on a page that basically, like the writing is like really, really tiny. And you have the sources of income on one side and the sources of the expenditures on the other, so yes.
So,
Can you direct Mr. Luck to where he might find that?
Well,
No, I
actually,
know
I'll
where to
just let him
find, no, I
finish
know
the
where to
question.
find that. I'm just confused as to if that's really what this is talking about. Because it sounds to me that this is saying, identify all available free sources of funding, not
Yes.
free, not cash, funding.
Including free cash.
Estimated surplus revenue in the current fiscal year. So do we have in the budget an estimated surplus revenue?
Mr. Alonso, do you have access to this information?
I've done enough budget processing.
Okay.
Budget processing. I mean-
Try not to touch the microphone if
Thank
possible.
you. Sorry.
Okay.
So, first of all, you have to understand that it's talking about the three things that are included in the budget, so A, B, and C. So A is talking about the operating budget expenditures.
Right.
That's the most, that's obviously everybody's aware of that. Then it's capital expenditures, and then you got to say where you get all the funding from. So everybody knows from property taxes, and then you have to identify all the other sources of funding, and then they started going into listing some of them. So they're always there. You can't, to Mr. Luck's question, you can't estimate the surplus revenue of the current year that you're going to pass the budget in. That's absolutely unknowable. Because presumably you pass a balanced budget, so you wouldn't have one, but eventually you do from time to time. So what they're talking about in the surplus revenue is the free cash from the previous year that's been certified that you can use to fund the current budget.
And that's
what
in
they're
the
talking
budget?
about, and that's always in there.
Oh, so it was worded incorrectly?
Well, no, I think they're just listing, by stopping it at funding, I think is correct. I think that the finance director
it's
is
not in the-
correct.
it's not in
In
the-
that identify all other sources of funding catches
Yes.
everything. You don't have to start listing what the other ones are.
Right.
Can we, looking at the original, The original says C, estimated surplus revenue and free cash at the end of the current fiscal year, including estimated balances in any special accounts established for special purposes.
Right,
Oh, we don't even, whoa, don't fall asleep on me.
right,
So we changed that just to say identify all other available sources.
yes.
So Bob obviously didn't leave the original in there.
So that's just my,
So are we saying that Xed out is not the original?
No, that X out is us, X.
No, the Xed out is part of what's in the original, but basically, all it's doing is, rather than saying, like that C is estimated surplus revenue and free cash, we're just saying all other
Yeah,
available
so what is
sources.
lined out was original, so you're
Yes.
actually deleting the lined out.
I'm going to bring up the original, just,
Okay, actually, yes, we are deleting,
You are deleting, because I thought I looked at the original.
and
It's
we're
in there.
changing it to read,
902.
identify all other available sources of funding.
Right.
So it's not limited.
However, I respectfully disagree with Mr. Alonso that you can, I would hope, more than halfway through the fiscal year, you could estimate some expectation of
Here it is.
unspent revenue.
But that's not when you're proposing the current operating budget. So basically, in
Well, that's
develop-
what the charter says.
it's estimating at the current fiscal year.
Yeah, right.
this is
year.
what the original says.
So I'm in March of this fiscal year.
right, and the
and
budget's already
I
been
should be
written.
able to estimate whether there's going to be unspent revenue, unspent budgeted revenue in June. That's not,
You can.
not be exact, it may not be
Actually,
correct.
Okay, let me
But
just
it's an
address
estimate.
that in terms of,
It's an estimate.
you can, but you can't put that in the budget. You can't touch the free cash until it's been certified. So all you're going to know is that you might have excessive revenues,
Yeah,
but you don't put it in a budget. So
Well,
it's
that's
not
fine.
part of the budget process. That's all I'm saying, is it's not
But
part
it
of the
just
budget
has to be
process.
identified, it doesn't have to be put in the budget. I would like to
But
know as a
no, I'm
taxpayer
just
that-
saying that the section is the budget. That's what the section is that this language is in.
Can we see it again?
It says action on the budget, 6.6.
Section 6.5, the budget. And this is basically, as part of the budget process, that you identify all sources of revenue that you're going to be doing all of this stuff with. And you don't have, as a revenue source, free cash until it's been certified by the state, which means you can estimate what you might have, but you can't touch it until,
But that's all they're asking for,
Can we get that
is to
back, please?
estimate.
When do you want back? This is the original
No,
chart.
I don't want the
2000.
original one, because
Okay.
Oh,
the original is with the
that's the original, okay, so that's 6.5.
That's the original.
And what it is it's talking about the development of the budget.
Yeah, okay. So unhighlight that and we can see it.
You just want to see that, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
The original said estimated surplus revenue and free cash at the end of the current fiscal year, including estimated, balances in any special accounts established for specific purposes. And I believe, if I can bring that one back. So at some point, everything was taken out. We just want to say identify all other available sources, instead of estimate just surplus revenue and free cash and include estimated balances established. So we want to have every source rather than just those. The original does say,
So does it include those then? When you say every source, it includes the ones that you deleted?
The free cash and the surplus revenue, the estimated surplus revenue and free cash at the, yes.
you know that
So
answer?
why do we delete it?
Because it wasn't the only sources of, other sources
And
of
again, we
revenue.
could say including. Well, I mean, I get, when we delete things, they go away, and without really understanding fully why they got put there to begin with. When specific things get put in, you're right, it's not all-inclusive.
Right.
Which to me is a bigger red flag, that they were put there for some specific reason. Why were those things identified to be put in there?
At that point, that's what they thought.
Well, and we have no reason to believe that there's a problem with it.
See what it was and identify all
Yeah.
of the sources of D.
You know what? It is great. Keep C, add D.
You can, I mean, basically, it's superfluous, but
I
sure.
think it's a discussion to have next week.
Yes, I
Yeah.
just started to raise it, thank
So,
you.
you know,
I
great.
get your point. If you're taking something away, it's gone.
It
you know what's
just
gone?
looks like we're doing something sneaky.
And I want to thank you, because obviously at some point, the person before me deleted it and added the new, and I didn't go through and check with the original,
I'm sure
because we
that-
should have the original in there to compare with.
I'm
So
sure
thank
that
you for bringing
this
that
was
up.
probably done with the finance committee, with the town manager and the director of finance.
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay.
And I think that,
thank you.
again,
So
I would
you'll
just say
discuss
that-
it, and
yeah.
that's my concern. What-
Yeah.
Or add the
If
word
it's there,
including estimated.
Soften the language, but
There's,
don't
there's tons of ways to handle.
I know.
All right,
Okay. And I think it was above there somewhere, there's a reference that was deleted to use modern concepts.
Yeah.
And again, what's the harm in leaving it? Why delete something just because you don't like the language?
Why would you leave it?
Why would I delete it? It should be the first question. Why delete it?
Okay, so we're gonna be delivering it by drone. I mean, I don't, I think that basically I don't know.
But there
see,
should be a reason
it
to delete
says
things.
just
That
before
makes
then-
everybody suspicious. Why are these things deleted? There's no
it
reason
says
if they
before
just don't
them,
like
in
the
a
wording.
manner that the town manager deems desirable or the select board may require.
But what is the harm in what's in there?
That refers to the format, though.
Oh, okay.
Shall be
I'm just,
informed.
my assumption is in 2009, a lot of technology was just coming, and they wanted to make sure we use current technology.
Well, you know what? Technology isn't stopped.
Well, if I remember
gonna keep
correctly,
coming.
it wasn't that long ago that we had people who didn't feel that schools should have computers. And that would have been current.
It's the
You know
same
what I
thing.
mean? So we have this back and forth on the use of technology. So
The first question is why? Why the change? What is the reason, compelling reason driving a change?
This change, I believe, was just outdated wording.
I go back to the
Not needed.
Constitution, right?
It's not needed. Okay, well, that's on the
so
purple.
that's
Let me make a note. That would have been...
I think they just wanted people to use spreadsheets. I think that's
Yeah,
what,
probably.
that was basically what it
Back
was.
then, it would have been 2007, yes.
Style over substance.
All right, 950 something. Oh, yeah, right here. Why out? Okay. Okay, anything else, sir?
Yeah, again, it's the same thing. In A of that same paragraph, deleted.
A of
I
the same
think
paragraph.
deleted. I can't.
Which
I'm-
one-
I'm
which one
losing
is
faith.
Right here. That was the finance director said that basically under Mass General Law, it's all under appropriation, and the phrase position in terms of work programs doesn't exist anymore.
It's not reported that way anymore.
Yeah, it's reported as appropriations.
Yeah.
The state changed its term.
So that term that was deleted is.
That was just deleted
Used to
because the
mean
state doesn't use
appropriation?
it anymore, and we don't do any reporting in that way, because the state doesn't require it.
Okay. Okay, you'll be happy to hear that's the last paragraphs. I'd just like to make two last comments. One is, as you well know, there was one citizen proposed change to add a minimum requirement for write-in votes. That was discussed and evaluated by your committee, and I appreciate it. It was deleted. Since that discussion, I've continued to talk to people. Everyone I talk to, and most of them are on boards and commissions, so they ought to pretty much know what's going on in town. You would think they would. Every one of them has been shocked that a single write-in vote can put you in office, and strongly felt that there should be a minimum. Maybe the number that was proposed in the language was the wrong number, but to have the ability for one person to write himself in and be put into an elected office for 3 to 5 years, it just makes no sense to anybody I talk to. I found no one who, in the real world, who, A, doesn't already think there is a limit, but when they're told there isn't shocked. So I would ask in your next meeting to perhaps
Okay.
reconsider that.
That would be a
On
reconsider.
the, I'd like to reinforce, Mr. Rogers' general comments about, just removing, the ability for our elected boards and committees to get the job done. I can tell you as on sewer that if the things like are in this current change get put in, you'll have a tough time finding good people to be on sewer because they'll have no authority to do much of anything. it's a very, very bad direction. And having even the supervision one, which was a change in sewer, which the Sewer Commission, does not object to. I want to be clear about that, of putting the supervision of the business manager under the town manager. The Sewer Commission has no problem with that. I have problems with that because, and I just want to make sure today, although it's not working effectively, but that's not a policy issue, the job description of the business manager, and it was decided up front when this position was created back in 2006 or whatever, that it would be the joint supervision of the DPW director and the Sewer Commission. So this change is taking the Sewer Commission completely out of the loop. The business manager does more work for the Sewer Commission than they do for the DPW director or operations, and yet the Sewer Commission has, at the end of this change, is going to have no say about supervision, performance, or anything else relative to the business manager. And I just think that's the wrong direction to go. And then finally, and I will sit down, I personally have a bad feeling about trying to force a special Monday night for this very important discussion. And it concerns me more that people say, well, people will choose one or the other. If you don't tell them, they won't know which one to choose. Well, people ought to go to the whole darn town meeting, not just go to the things that they're interested in. So I think if we start down a path where we start scheduling, well, at 9 o'clock, we're going to talk about this warrant article. At 10, on Tuesday night, we'll talk about this. So only people interested in their own little private special interest show up for that section. That's not the intent of, that shouldn't be what we're stacking the deck for. We should be stacking the deck to get as many people to the entire town meeting as possible. So I'm against allocating a specific time and place for a specific item on the agenda. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else? Oh, you've been very patient. Come on up. Join our groovy gang. Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that. Turn my mic off. Do you have a specific... Oh, go ahead.
On Lockwood, 91 Main Street. I have a comment and then a question. My comment regarding everyone is very concerned about, shifting of powers and giving too much power from one, for the town manager, not. As, I worry about sometimes having one or two elected people or big personality also deviating too much of the direction of a department, going one way or the other. So I actually like having a paid employee who's responsible for something that we can call upon. I also worry about, especially the DPW director, has more, he reports to more commissioners than anything else. How can you can't have too many masters. So I think right now it's a little convoluted, so I would hope that with the new charter, some of those things would be more clear. So, when are we going to discuss the green, is my next question.
We weren't going to, you were going to write the pro.
Well, I wasn't sure what time the color came about.
Well, you know why I changed the color? Because the clerk was red and the selectman was red, and if you look at the document, everything had red on it on every page, because the name Board of Selectmen is on virtually every page. And it was, to me, very distracting, because if we're focusing on X, like this example, well, this is probably a bad example. I was trying to find one that had...
No, I was just waiting for my caller to be called.
Oh, no. This is it. You can talk about it now.
Yeah, go ahead. Go
ahead. I was just bringing it up because we're going to let the town vote for this one. But please.
So that's a question. So the last time I came to this discussion, what I had heard was that it was going to be an up or down vote for the entire charter. And that seems to have changed.
Right.
That changed in the fall when Bob told us that he had discovered that, because we operated under the up or down up until last fall, correct?
Right.
Well, those of you who have been here. Oh, yeah, it was before you joined. And then after researching it and talking to town council or wherever he talked to, he said, no, we can actually bring about, and we can vote on separate changes.
So that's going to be a separate change?
Yes.
So what's happening at town meeting, we're going to have one warrant will be just about the purple typo things, and people can make amendments. If that passes, then we just make that. If it doesn't pass, then we just keep it the original. Then we'll talk about the brown, which is substantial changes, which are substantial, and some of them are just clarification of what we already do. If that passes, we have that. If it passes with the quote purple, then we have all the changes. If one of them passes, not the other, then we have to do what the Congress does and just make sure that they match. Then, once we have that charter, we're then going to look at the town clerk position. Because enough people have said appointed, enough people have said voted or elected, that we as a committee, I keep saying commission, committee feel that we need everyone's vote on that.
Sure.
And we're going to give the pros and cons, and people have been asking us to come up with details about it, so that when we bring it up, I can say, is it going to cost money, is it not going to cost money? The Select Board versus Board of Selectmen has been there since the beginning. There's a large segment in the town that would like to move, the Me Too movement was going on, and there were things like that, and thought that maybe we needed to encourage the young.
It was more than Me Too.
It was more than Me Too. I know, there was a lot to it.
We were just looking for inclusive language.
Inclusive language that would allow, if I remember, please correct me, that the young people in our town could look and say, I could do that one day and not have an artificial barrier. To us, for the charter itself, it makes no difference.
So if that's the case, why are we throwing in with the purple? To just be an up or down?
Oh, no, because it's a major change.
Well, no. Okay, wait. I think if I understand your question correctly, the reason why the name change is going to be completely separate is if no charter change is approved, but that is voted yes, then the current charter will change to reflect that language. The reason why it's not a purple change is because that whole charter gets voted up or down based on somebody not liking one thing.
Right, I find that odd with all the major changes that we have, that, this committee selected to call this out even further than,
Actually, it started almost a year ago when we said there was so much feedback on both sides. We just said, we can't make a decision. We'll just let the townspeople decide.
There were a lot of strong opinions about this one, and it's not like typos,
No, but I do think that, if it's a major change, why not throw it in with all the changes? Because it does feel like
I understand.
Making it into a bigger
We didn't want
issue.
to, stepping back to the all or nothing, we didn't want this issue to affect all the other issues.
Well, but, it's a...
Because this issue actually doesn't really change the document legally, because we have a section that says, anything that says male also means female, anything that says, we have that section.
I know, but it just feels... I really don't understand. I see the logic on the typos, I see the logic on the major changes.
The logic was that we were afraid that the charter would be voted down on that issue. So the reason...
People make that decision versus call this out even more, aside.
Well, the only reason why we called out particular items was because they could vote it down, and then that's fine. Like we just go with the current charter, and we're not going to be any worse for the wear. But
I personally feel that I care about this subject, and I find this to be honestly a nonsensical discussion. And I typed up my notes, and I'm happy to read it. And by calling it out and not making it part of the general, this is a major change and let's vote it up or down, you're really taking out the liability of someone having to make that decision. Do I really want to, vote down the entire charter because of this? You're allowing for that to be a bigger issue. So I don't want that. I wanted to put it as a whole thing. So if someone is going to really stand there and say, this is a deal breaker for me, go for it. But there will be a lot more consequence. By pulling it out, I feel that now we make this the single issue to be voted. And then, all the other major changes that we're talking about, they are all sort of diluted with the others. We really want to make this, vote the entire charter down because, it doesn't say all fundings, all sorts of fundings. Are we really going to vote the entire charter down because of that? Probably not, some semantics here and there. But by pulling this out, that's what we are doing. It's like we're giving this, actually making it easier to be voted down when we're not making everything else to be easier to be voted down. So I have an issue with that. Is there any chance that this can be put back with the other major changes?
Yeah, I don't think it was the thought process of this committee to call it out to sway a vote one way or another. I think it was the thought process to present the material in a clear way to focus the attention of the members of town meeting so that they can discuss the clerk, discuss the label of the Board of Selectmen.
All those things are great.
Separately.
Yeah, but this one is not, it doesn't have any structural change to the government like the town clerk or who reports to who does what. This has no consequence on the structure of the government.
Right.
This is really just, allowing for people that may have an issue with this, making a bigger issue when it comes time to vote. You know what, put it in with a whole package and let them see how much of an issue it is.
But we're not voting as a whole package on anything.
You have the town clerk, you have the major issues, and you have the little language.
Typos, and then consequential.
And so
So let's put it with that. Taking it out really does not help. It really allows for, the vote to be just to be voted on that one particular issue only when.
But you may.
It's not like the town clerk. This is not a major issue. This is just semantics, does not change the way the government is run, nothing.
But you may sink all of the substantial changes because people are opposed to the name change.
So let them make that decision. So if, at the end of the day, my point is that we are diluting every other major changes that goes into the purple. Okay?
Major changes aren't in purple. Purple are just.
Don't worry about that. I know what she's.
Whatever other color you have for the major changes.
I understand what you
Let's put a title, major changes. Major changes are all going to one big package. That's it. And people, when they go to vote that up or down, they're going to have to make the decision. It's how important is these other things that I don't really care. And they're gonna, am I gonna get one thing that I want and give up on the others? It's gonna be a decision right there. And this is just as that one case. There is nothing else. By pulling it out, you're allowing this conversation to be bigger than it should be. This is a name change. There's no structure change to the government. Nothing. All the major issues that have been discussed, how the budget is set up, who reports to who has the power. All those things are major. No.
So then put it with the purple. If it's nothing, put it with the purple.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Well, then, you know what? We'll bring that up at our meeting next week. How's that?
I would appreciate that. So since this public comment, I've been waiting because I was waiting for my caller to be called.
I didn't even think of that because I was really focused on the major changes. But thank you for your patience.
But again, this is a major change. You're calling it out as a whole thing, so you clearly knew it was a major change. So, and that was so surprising because the last time there was a public hearing that I was here, somehow this was a very big subject, and I had never thought about speaking about it until I was here, and I was like, whoa, really? And I tried to put my notes together as I sat there. So, so the first thing that comes to mind is, why are we changing this? And I actually went to the Linguistic Society of America's website, and it says, language is always changing, evolving and adapting to its needs, to the needs of its users. Isn't a bad thing. If English hadn't changed since 1950, we wouldn't have words to refer to modems, fax machines, cable TV. Of course, this is old because we could refer to a lot more, newer technology. As long as the needs of language users continue to change, so will language. The change is so that it's slow that year over year we hardly notice, except when we grumble about poor English of the young people talking. However, reading Shakespeare's writing from 16th century can be difficult. If you go back a couple more centuries, Canterbury Tales would be almost like reading a different language. So language changes. So it's not, and that's what I found interesting in the last conversation that we had, was that it was such a big issue, but this is just a linguistic thing. And it's not about the Me Too or anything, it's a fact. So why is this here important? And I'll try to read my notes somewhat logical because it was really just bullet points. When the original charter was put in place, the only people serving on the board were men. That's it. And the name Board of Selectmen was the proper name to be given to a group of men who were selected by the townspeople to run the town. That's a fact. There wasn't a sinister male supremacy conspiracy happening in Lunenburg to ensure that men were kept in power and women were kept in the kitchen. It was just a fact of the times when men were the people that served political offices. That's it. In fact, if the same group of men were here today and they would be taking part of this discussion, they would likely find this discussion very silly because the name selectman no longer reflects the board, what the board is. It's a simple matter of fact. And to put something in perspective, here we're not talking about Minutemen, the Minutemen. We're not talking about a term that has a historic significance or meaning to anything. We're talking about the name of a board. So, I'll try to catch up with my notes, but and even the name Minutemen at the time, it was a very pragmatic name. It was a group of men who were willing to serve in battle at a minute's notice. So even that was a very matter-of-fact term, is the Minutemen. So again, the select board, selectmen, there's no historic significance to that term in Lunenburg, and that's just where it ends. It's just the reason we don't want to change, and the explanations I heard the last time we were here was simply because that's what it always has been. Why change? Well, you change it because it's simply wrong. Again, it stays my point. So, as I mentioned, I was really surprised by the discussion that happened the last time because it surrounded a lot about people's feelings, believe it or not, because it was things of, I think we are changing just because we want to be PC. And a former member said, I was never offended by the name. And I think Ms. Luck said, I'm not offended either. And all of those things are just feelings. And are we offended or not? Are we trying to not offend someone? Because the name's still wrong. That's it. The name is wrong. And so we should just acknowledge that the name Board of Selectmen no longer fits the purpose of describing the people who serve in the board, and therefore the current name is simply, again, wrong. There's nothing to it. The discussion should be about what should the proper name for this board be. And if we follow the same logic of the people who wrote the first town charter, one possible name for the board would be Select Board. You can come up with another name, but we should just give a name to what something is. But if we give into our feelings and fears, all we are actually doing is willing to be wrong so that we don't appear to be PC and don't appear to, feel offended or not wanting to offend the people. Now, that is a lot of irony in there, where we're willing to be wrong so that we are not PC. That's just funny interpretation of events there. So the name change is not about being PC, nor making sure that one is not offended or offended, or disregard the historical significance of board selectmen. The change in name should happen because the current name is linguistically incorrect and no longer represents the people who serves the board. It also fails to acknowledge the current name, who currently serves and who will serve on the board in the future. So we are actually, by not changing the name and making a big deal about something that it was not a big deal back then, we actually now, the current population is actually giving more meaning and more significance to something that didn't exist back then. It was just a matter of fact. It was men who served. The name was selectmen. But now we are stuck on, I don't want to change because I don't want to be PC. I'm not offended. It's not about that. It's just wrong. But by taking that position, we're actually giving meaning to something that didn't exist. That's it. So, so I will ask that this one item gets put back with the big lump so that we should make people make that decision to vote up or down as with everything else. By taking it out, we're again giving more emphasis to something that should not be an issue, should not be a major change. And that's the gist of it. But, I waited for my green collar to become.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Luck?
Yeah, I got real confused here. Is this going to be an up or down? I mean, if this was put in as was suggested, if this was just put in.
Current format at the moment is at the moment, is all the changes that are typographical and legal would be voted as one article. All the changes that are in brown, that are substantial changes, that are also reflecting current policy, would be voted up or down. That was to allow, if I may, allow us to do a house cleaning, so to speak, of typos and things like that. Allow us a chance to discuss where we are as a town and what we've been doing with the brown substantial changes and how we want to do the future. And those are important, and we wanted to focus on the wording, the legal things, the things that made a difference to the day-to-day operations and all that. And then over the course of 18 months, we have gotten a lot of feedback about the town clerk, one way or another, and the Board of Selectmen change. So it was like a year ago, we decided, we should keep these separate, because at that time, it was an all or nothing. And we didn't want the good things in the typos and the substantial change to be voted down because of that. And then, okay.
Mr. Chair, can I take a shot at this?
Please. I'm trying.
We are going to present it in 4 articles at the moment.
I understand, yeah. Or 3.
Up or down is a little misleading because we had to run at this last time around and we had a different perception. What we're saying is there'll be one article that includes all the purple or, less significant grammatical, conform with the. Okay. But in event, one article. Right. It's not up or down to the extent that it could be amended on the town floor.
Now, okay, that's
and it's not all or nothing, and you can't change it.
Right.
But it is one article, and the amendments will be confined to by the moderator to that one article.
Right. Yeah, and not huge changes.
Extrapolating a touch, if we were to take the suggestion and make the select board change a purple change, okay, it would be part of that one article. It would be, here's all the changes to make them grammatically or legally consistent, and someone would have to make an amendment if they disagreed with it.
Yeah,
but it wouldn't affect all the other purple changes.
Right, yeah. So it could be 3 or 4, it's more a strategy, but no matter where anything is, it can be amended on the floor within
we
limits.
That right at the beginning, at town meeting amendments.
Right.
But as the moderator said, they have to be within the scope of that article. And that was one of the reasons for separating that, so that we could focus on different aspects of it.
Yeah.
So that the people could discuss different aspects.
Right. But anything within the article, an amendment could delete it.
Oh, yeah.
Right, okay. So there was one thing in my big, long list with all my markups I did miss that I don't want to miss because I think it's important. It was 4-1. It used to be line 572, 573. And it's the one where the appointment of the town manager, or the town manager search committee thing?
Yeah.
Screening committee, thank you. And what I want to talk to is it adds 2 town residents, which I don't disagree with. I think getting more people involved, and I think it's a good idea. The part that I do object to and with no personalities against the current town moderator. But I don't think it's appropriate to have the town moderator, who's on that panel to begin with, to appoint 2 more people, so that there's now essentially 3 people, the town moderator and his 2 appointees, on a 7-person commission. I think there are other ways that you could have those 2 residents put on the commission. You could have volunteers, you could have a lottery, you could have a lot of other ways, and having, one person on on that committee appoint 2 more people and then go through the process. So I think there's a better way to achieve the goal, and maybe even better achieve the goal of getting new voices into the equation, that I would like to suggest you think
All
about.
right, thanks. Mr. Alonso.
I want to make one small comment and then a larger issue. So the comment about removing wording, I mean, when we reviewed it on the 2 committees I did, and I'm sure you went through the same thing, I mean, part of the reason you remove older wording is the more words that are in it, the more chance there is to have confusion about what somebody meant. And if you have a more inclusive term, if you listed a bunch of colors, like in your presentation, if you said, purple, brown, red, green, and then some part you said, you said all colors. Well, you wouldn't need to list all the other colors if you were inclusive. And a lot of the language that was changed in here does that. It tries to make the document clearer by removing language and making it more specific, more concise. The less concise it is, the more apt for confusion and misinterpretation. That's the smaller one. The larger issue is, I've heard a lot of comments tonight about power and who has power and who doesn't have power. And at one point I thought it was ironic that one speaker talked about, he didn't like the fact that all the power was going to the board, the town manager, which was one person, but he also didn't like the fact that 3 selectmen could run the whole town, or that any board, if you had a simple majority, you could run the whole board. The sewer commission could run by 3 people always agreeing. Well, you know what? That's the way government works. I mean, if somebody has a better way than electing people, why don't we all get elected to a body and everything gets decided at town meeting? You would never be able to run a town. At some point, you have to take this power and you break it up into as smaller, digestible chunks as you can, and you make decisions about balance and about how things should operate smoothly and not operate smoothly, and everything is a play off of one against the other. So in order, you have to balance, do things run smoothly, or do the things be most fair, or do you want things to run quickly? And you balance all those 3. And so everything in this charter, in every revision, has to do with that. So when I hear people playing, I mean, I haven't heard any indication, and I'm glad Mr. Cole asked that question about the sewer commission. Do you think it's running well now? Well, if it's running well now, okay, then maybe you should leave that. But I haven't heard of anything that is an egregious mistake about the way things are now, and yet we had speakers talk about things that this committee hasn't even offered changes on, wanting to change them. So it's really, we really have to be very careful and be targeted in and I think you have been very targeted in what you want to change and why you want to change it. And I would, again, applaud that. And I think where there's room for some maneuvering because the intent might not be correctly stated, I think we always have to be cognizant that no matter how it comes out, somebody's going to have more power than somebody else, and groups of people are going to have more power than one person or the minority in their own committee. That's just the way things work, which is why elections matter, which is why people running matter, which is why one vote as a write-in, if it's a blank candidate, why that matters. So just wanted to give that as a framework as you go back one last time and evaluate it. So, and I thank you for the opportunity tonight. I think it was a very well-run meeting, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Oh, Katie.
Hi, Katie Williams Drive, citizen. The page that I've stuck with the whole night, and it's been talked about, so I don't want to get into anything specific, is 4.2I, powers and duties of the town manager, and even the fact, I guess the word power jumps out at me. I always like to talk a lot about government not being a business, and so it does require employees, but government is really intended to be the people. And so when you think about the people, it's the elected people who are intended to run a town with the help of employees. And so when back when I was on the committee, I immediately became very fixated on the word full jurisdiction and jurisdiction in general. And as we look at this and as you go back to look at it, the jurisdiction of the parks should be under the elected committee that was set forth by the people to run the parks. Cemetery. The jurisdiction of the cemetery should be under the people who were put there to run the cemetery. I think the jurisdiction or who's in charge of something is who's elected to do it, the school committee for the schools, the parks for the parks. And so some of that has been added here, like the school committee's been called out, the Conservation Commission's been called out, even though they're not even an elected group, but there's a lot of laws that they are under. I'd say keep listing parks and other groups that should have their own jurisdiction. Because otherwise, okay, then my final point, and I'll be very, very quick, is the town manager is looking for an assistant. And so I've had this conversation with people in my role, like as a selectman, have I been asked to look for grant writing opportunities or asked to participate in different things even though I volunteer? No. So instead of adding employees, let's see if we can put the work and the creativity on the people who have volunteered to be there rather than to take it from them. Otherwise, it becomes an arbitrary government. If it's run by employees, it's a business and it needs to stay a government. Thank you.
Thank you.
She has nothing to say.
All right.
I would love to entertain the famous words.
I would make a motion, we adjourn.
Second?
I will second that after.
Any
5 minutes
discussion?
sitting here.
I hereby move this meeting, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No, I'm only kidding.
I want to stop.
I'm only kidding.
Ayes have it.